Chapter 1968. What did you say? Hearing this, Fusu was stunned. He did not expect Li Si to say such a thing. It was obvious that Li Si was being unreasonable and pushing all the blame to him, the crown prince of the empire. It was a complete joke. Was there a need for the future heir to assassinate Yingzheng? To put it bluntly, as long as Yingzheng died, the throne would be Fusu's. Li Si, are you crazy? Fusu's face was red, and he was so angry that he felt dizzy. Why would I assassinate my father? There is no reason at all. Is it just because Lord Chongping is my uncle? Pedantic. Between an uncle and a biological son, it was clear who was closer. Whether there is such a thing or not, we will know once we capture him and interrogate him. Li Si sneered as he looked at Zhao Gao. His cold eyes were obviously telling Zhao Gao to capture Fusu. I understand, Prime Minister. Zhao Gao laughed sinisterly as he slowly walked towards Fusu. His face maintained an exaggerated demon-like smile. It was very creepy. You two bastards still want to capture me? The veins on Fusu's forehead were popping as he clenched his fists tightly. He finally understood that Zhao Gao and Li Si were being unreasonable and wanted to remove him as the heir to the throne. We are not capturing. Li Si spoke again. After sorting out his thoughts, he explained softly. We just hope that young master can stay with the great elder for a while. After we find out that it has nothing to do with young master, we will naturally release you. How dare you? Unable to tolerate it any longer, Fusu roared. Li Si, get a clear picture of who you are and who I am. Do you think you can lock me up in jail? A mere prime minister does not have the right to do so. I say, young master, you are the one who does not know who you are. Zhao Gao sneered as he secretly scolded Fusu for being an idiot. Until now, he still did not know why he was imprisoned. It was not an investigation, but to force Fusu to commit suicide in the prison. These two dogs of a slave sure have some guts. At the same time, an extremely discordant voice sounded. Zhao Gao and Li Si's faces twitched. They would never forget this nightmarish voice. Master Dustless. Seeing who it was, Fusu was overjoyed and said excitedly, Grandmaster, please help me get rid of Li Si and Zhao Gao, these two traitors. Fusu will definitely reward you greatly. Humph, a heavy reward? How laughable. Fusu, do you still think you can live on? Zhao Gao sneered at Fusu, directly calling him by his name. Dustless, as the saying goes, there is no absolute enemy. If you are willing to join us, you will definitely have a place in the imperial court of the Qin state in the future. The person who spoke was none other than Li Si. If Dustless was really willing to submit, he didn't mind forgetting their past grudges. Seriously, are your ears stuffed with donkey hair? Didn't you hear what I called you? You two dog slaves are really audacious. Dustless looked at the two of them mockingly. His words had already made his position clear. You want to die. Li Si didn't want to waste words. Waving his remaining arm, he snarled. Wei Zhuang was dismembered by 5 horses. I will definitely dismember you by 10 horses. Is that so? Hearing this, Dustless showed a surprised expression. He pretended to be overjoyed and said, Minister, for treating me so well, I am really grateful. Sharp-tongued brat. Li Si's eyes flashed with cold light. Waving his hand, he was about to order the 6 sword slaves to attack Dustless when an unexpected change occurred. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large amount of light suddenly condensed behind Li Si's back, and a pair of cold eyes appeared. Prime Minister, behind you. Seeing that Li Si was still looking for the missing Wu Chen with a silly look, Zhao Gao hurriedly reminded him loudly, that brat Wu Chen is right behind you. What? Li Si was shocked. He turned his head to look, but what hit him back was a sharp blade light and sword shadow, mercilessly chopping at one of his shoulders. Puchi. Li Si's remaining arm was once again chopped off by Dustless. Ah! Li Si howled in pain. Blood flowed out from his wound again. Because the heaven-gathering cloud sword also carried a fatal light attribute attack, the smell of burnt flesh filled the air. Pung pung pung. Li Si's previous arm was chopped off by Wei Zhuang, which was already tragic enough. Now that Dustless had chopped off his other arm, was there any meaning in living in the future? Without both arms, what was the point of living? Damn Dustless, I will definitely dismember you into 1,000 pieces, peel off your skin, pull out your bones, and ruthlessly trample on you. Li Si was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His eyeballs had turned blood red, as if they would pop out at any time. Aha! You still want to spout such arrogant words at this stage? Dustless stared speechlessly at the wailing Li Si on the ground and sighed. Li Si, spouting such arrogant words will only make you seem even more fragile. Li Si was just a scholar. What right did he have to dismember him into 1,000 pieces, or even peel off his skin and pull out his bones? It was all complete nonsense. It was so laughable that he wanted to die. Furthermore, Li Si, you seem to have misunderstood something. With a cold expression, Dustless raised the heaven-gathering cloud sword and said regretfully, "This will be the last time we meet, Minister. In the future, we will never meet again." Xiao xiao xiao. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden light pierced through Li Si's body, leaving behind visible wounds. Poochie. Li Si was killed by Dustless from the waist down, completely losing his breath. As the Prime Minister of a generation, he actually fell to such a tragic end. It was truly tragic. Chapter 1969. Zhao Gao stared blankly at Li Si's body that had been split into two. He did not expect Dustless to be so cruel and heartless, killing a Prime Minister without any hesitation or mercy. You dare to kill the Prime Minister? Zhao Gao's voice was sharp and shrill as he stared angrily. Such a crime is enough to sentence you to death 100 times. Li Si dared to commit treason, he deserved to die. In my opinion, the mastermind behind the assassination of my father was instigated by the two of you. Fu Su's face was filled with hatred as he looked at Li Si's corpse. He said with a tone that said he deserved it. Li Si deserved to die. It is too easy for him to die so hastily. According to the laws of the Great Qin Empire, such a crime should be punished with chariot splitting, as a warning to others. However, Li Si did not receive this honor. You have to enjoy it for him, Zhao Gao. Fu Su's gaze landed on Zhao Gao's head as he said coldly, "In your dreams." Zhao Gao spat as his eyes were filled with determination. Did you hear that? Zhao Gao, you are going to die from chariot splitting. Dustless looked at him with pity, not caring about Zhao Gao's face that was turning purple. Bastards, chop them into pieces. The enraged Zhao Gao no longer hid his intentions as he roared. Fu Su, you are not suitable to be the emperor. It is better for you to give the throne to Hu Hai. Go and die. Xiao xiao xiao. The moment he said that, the 6 sword slaves attacked from all directions. They waved their swords and the sharpness was fatal. Stupid things that don't know death. Seeing this, Dustless did not show any mercy. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, he had to eliminate all of them. The chakra in his body gathered as an overwhelming repulsive force exploded. Shinra Tensei. The powerful repulsive force burst out of his body and formed a perfect 360-degree circle that was watertight like an iron bucket. Pung pung pung. The 6 figures who were rushing over were completely unaware of the situation and were instantly sent flying back over a dozen meters. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their bones were dislocated and broken. A bunch of trash. Seeing this, Zhao Gao cursed loudly, feeling extremely helpless in his heart. If it were anyone else, the slave of the 6 swords could easily suppress them. But if the opponent is Dustless, the slave of the 6 swords doesn't seem to have any advantage. Zhao Gao muttered to himself in his heart, feeling a burst of anger. Without any countermeasures, he could only face the opponent himself. Swish. Swish. Zhao Gao sped over. His big hand was surrounded by clouds of black gas. It was eerie and strange. It seemed that anything that came into contact with it would inevitably embark on the path of destruction. Too weak. Seeing this, Dustless shook his head gently. Without wasting any time, he gathered light in his hand and flicked his finger. Laser. Swish. Swish. The beam of light came and left in a hurry. Zhao Gao was extremely miserable. His speed was very fast, but the speed of the beam of light was even more unbelievable. Almost as soon as the arrow was shot out, it had already pierced through his body. There was no room for him to counterattack. Poochie. Zhao Gao's abdomen was attacked like never before. and a hole about the size of a thumb appeared on his body. Plop. Receiving an unprecedented injury, Zhao Gao's face was pale. In the end, he collapsed to the ground, trembling as he touched the fatal hole in his abdomen. The pain was unbearable. If you have the guts, then kill me, dustless. Zhao Gao continued to say stubbornly. His ferocious eyes looked as if he wanted to swallow Dustless alive. If it wasn't for this guy's sudden appearance, Dustless might have already died in prison. Everything was Dustless' fault. Kill you in such a hurry? That's too easy for you. Dustless sat down comfortably and gloated. Zhao Gao, as the controller of the net, you should know that the most torturous thing in the world is not to let him die in such a hurry. Give him a physical and mental blow, making him beg for death. You bastard. When Zhao Gao heard Dustless's words, he felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that Dustless would not let him go so easily. Especially from his tone, it would be a great honor for him to die with his body intact. Don't move. Let go of the master. At this moment, an unexpected voice was heard. He turned around and saw that it was one of the 6 sword slaves, Wanshan. This guy endured the pain of his head bleeding, grabbed his sword, and held it against Fu Su's throat. Ha 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 ha, well done. Seeing this, Zhao Gao suddenly laughed like crazy. He did not know where he got the strength from, but his body, which could not take the burden, miraculously stood up again. However, before Zhao Gao could be happy for long, tragedy struck. Pedantic. Dustless's eyes only glanced at Wanshan's body. Then something unbelievable happened in front of Zhao Gao. Ah. Why is my body suddenly on fire? It's so hot. He only glanced at Wanshan, and his body burned with an unknown black fire. Tensho. Those 2 words were scary as if they were filled with magic. The moment they fell, Wanshan's body disappeared with the wind. Not even a corpse was left behind. His whole person was wiped out. Zhao Gao was shocked. You are such an arrogant bug. If I were you, I would use my last bit of strength to run away. I would not stay here and threaten others. In my entire life, I hate short-sighted people who threaten me. Dustless closed his eyes and spoke to himself. It was as if he had done something insignificant. From what he could see, Wanshan was stupid. Zhao Gao did not just treat him as a pawn. Chapter 1970. Damn it. Seeing this, Zhao Gao clenched his teeth in anger and cursed. Wanshan is a piece of trash. He was killed instantly. If I knew he was so useless, I would have killed him earlier. Zhao Gao's face was twisted. His already pale face was even scarier. He looked like an evil spirit. He was a piece of trash in the Luo Net organization that did not need to be killed instantly. Wu Chen's brows slightly raised, and he sincerely felt that it was not worth it for the slave of the 6 swords. To have a master like Zhao Gao, it could be considered as 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Zhao Gao, is it not done yet? Is Fu Su that brat dead? At this moment, an unexpected voice suddenly came. Dustless and the others looked over. A handsome young man with heterochromatic eyes came into view. Hu Hai. Although Dustless did not recognize him, Zhao Gao and Fu Su recognized him immediately. Hu Hai also looked at the miserable scene in a daze. What he saw were many corpses. The scene was too horrible to look at. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Blurg. With a slight breath, the smell of blood could be breathed into the lungs. Hu Hai could not help but vomit. Hu Hai, give me an explanation. Fu Su's face was unfriendly. There was a rare ferocious look on his face. He used to have a good impression of his younger brother. Although they had the same father but different mothers, they still had a lot in common. But what Fu Su did not expect was that this younger brother of his who usually looked amiable was actually so vicious. He played tricks in front of others and behind others, and even viciously wanted to kill him. I have something to do. I'll leave first. Realizing that something was wrong, Hu Hai turned around and ran. He was like a breeze and disappeared in an instant. Damn you! Why didn't I see you this powerful when you were cultivating? You are the best at escaping. Zhao Gao was furious. He cursed himself for being wrong in the past. If he had been willing to serve Fu Su, he would not have ended up in such a miserable state. You are a hopeless fool. Although your speed is not bad, but Dustless's body emitted a large amount of photons that instantly disappeared without a trace. It was like a divine rainbow that descended from the heavens, blocking Huhai's path. In front of the light, there are no exceptions. Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Huhai hurriedly threatened loudly, "Get out of my way! I'm a prince. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Be careful or I'll exterminate 9 generations of your family. No, 10 generations of your family. Exterminate 10 of my clans." Dustless couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He teased, "I say, kid, are you sure you want to annihilate my 10 clans? Let me tell you, the so-called 10 clans include friends. Your brother Fusu is also one of my friends. Do you want to kill him as well? You've got guts. You." Huhai flew into a rage out of humiliation. He raised his fist and punched Dustless in the face. "No matter what, you are still a prince. I'll give you a special treatment." The spiritual pressure in Dustless's body surged as a destructive sharpness floated out of his body. A faint black light appeared in the void as it slashed toward Huhai. Dow breaking 90, black coffin. Poochie. In just an instant, Huhai's body was sliced into 8 pieces, turning into a pile of mush. You asked for it." Fusu snorted. He might be kind and generous, but it didn't mean that he was stupid. Fusu wouldn't sympathize with a conspiracy that wanted to kill his younger brother. "Young master." At the same time, a large number of Qin soldiers rushed over, led by Zhang Han's shadow secret guard. Zhang Han came too late. "Please forgive me, young master." Forgetting about the corpses on the ground, Zhang Han got down on one knee in shame. After all, he was responsible for Fusu's safety. In truth, it wasn't Zhang Han's fault. No one had expected Zhao Gao and Li Si to betray him. Even if he had come, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. It was impossible for him to stop the 6 sword slaves. This brat might be loyal now, but in the future, he'll be a true traitor of Qin. Wu Chen muttered in his heart. In history, Zhang Han was a character with mixed reputations. He led the soldiers of the Qin state and was defeated by Xiangyu. Later, he surrendered to Xiangyu without any moral integrity. In the end, he was even crowned as a king. However, the heavens were always fair. Traitors never had a good ending. Even though Zhang Han was crowned king, he was still defeated by Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty. After the city fell, he committed suicide. "If not for Master Dustless, I might have been killed." Fusu couldn't help but sigh. When he recalled the scene of Li Si and Zhao Gao forcing him to abdicate, he still felt a lingering fear. "Don't mention it. The school of Yinyang and the Qin dynasty are on the same side, so this is my duty." Dustless smiled, indicating that there was no need for Fusu to thank him. After chatting for a while, Dustless returned to the elusive mirage. What happened next had nothing to do with him. After all, the throne was undoubtedly Fusu's. However, as soon as he returned to the elusive mirage, an unexpected guest came to visit him. Tianyan of the School of Nong. When Dustless heard that Tianyan of the School of Nong wanted to see him, his first thought was to defect. Most of the School of Nong's disciples who tried to assassinate Ing Zheng came from the School of Nong, and almost all of them were killed by the Qin army. Perhaps Tianyan felt that the future of the anti-Qin alliance was bleak, so he followed Tianmi and joined the light. It was normal for Tianyan to want to join the School of Nong. After all, he was the smartest person in the School of Nong, and his foresight was not something others could compare to. "According to my guess, she's most likely here to forsake the darkness and join the light. The last time we attacked Ing Zheng, the farmers' clan suffered heavy losses. Moon Goddess, just tell her that I have something to do and leave her out for a few days. Let's show that woman who's in charge, lest she's as self-righteous as Tianmi, who doesn't have the attitude of a loser." Since he wanted to surrender, he should know his own identity and not cooperate. Chapter 1971. He was already beaten like a dog, yet he still wanted to talk about cooperation. This was simply too laughable. "Sect Master, why do you have to bully a weak girl like me? Doing so will only ruin your sect's reputation." In the brightly lit hall, a rather crisp voice suddenly rang out. However, it sounded a little sickly, powerless, and very tired. "Yueshin, this girl. Dustless looked at Yueshin with resentment. He did not expect Tianyan to be standing at the side. He did not notice her at all. He instinctively thought that he and Yueshin were the only ones in the large hall. Yueshin naturally noticed Dustless's resentful gaze. She immediately put on a look of indifference. Weak girl. Dustless rolled his eyes and said, if I remember correctly, Miss Tian is the hall master of Lai Mountain Hall. Such an important position is not something a weak girl can take on. Sect master, you flatter me. Tianyan is just a first-level girl. Tianyan said softly. Then she looked at Dustless quietly. As a hall master, it sounded impressive. However, it was not. She had her own difficulties. First of all, Tianyan was born weak and sickly. The work of a hall master was not suitable for her. Secondly, in a feudal society, men were superior to women. Sometimes, it was inevitable that she would be bullied. For example, her second uncle, Tian Hu, would sometimes threaten her. Of course, these were not the most important factors. After the last battle, the morale of the entire School of Agriculture was very low. Although Ing Zheng was dead, the School of Agriculture had lost a large number of elite disciples. Then Miss Tian, may I ask if you have adjusted your status? Don't be like Tianmi. She thinks she can cooperate with me. She is not qualified at all. Of course, if you want to cooperate, I hope to get something that is beneficial to me. Tianmi's figure appeared in Wu Chen's mind. He could not help but sneered. Tianmi and I will cooperate with each other on Zhang Liang's head and Rong Er's head. However, Zhang Liang's head has yet to be delivered. I see. Tianyan was enlightened. Her expression softened slightly. She looked surprised. No wonder that woman Tianmi is so proud of herself recently. It turns out that she has boarded the Yinyang School's pirate ship and is planning to secretly steal Zhang Liang's head. Tianyan pondered in his heart. Rather than calling it cooperation, it was actually an unequal treaty. Of course, you can refuse. Please go back now, Miss Tian. Dustless glanced at the moon god and waved his hand, indicating for her to see the guest out. Please, Miss Tian. Ignoring the frowning Tianyan, the moon goddess made an inviting gesture. Is this how the school of Yinyang treats their guests? Tianyan snorted and said in a slightly displeased tone. Forgive me for being blunt, but the Yinyang school doesn't have the magnanimity of the head of the 100 schools of thought. What a joke. Hearing this, Dustless immediately snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, whether or not I'm the head of the 100 schools of thought doesn't depend on words. It still depends on this. Dustless shook his fist. His meaning was self-evident. Only one's fist could measure everything. Everything else was just a joke. Phew. Seeing that Dustless was so insensible, Tianyan could only take a deep breath to stabilize her complicated emotions. It seemed that she had no choice but to compromise. I have something that the school of Yinyang is very interested in. After I give it to you, what will happen to the school of thought in the end? Tianyan stated her condition. At the same time, she took out a bundle carefully. It looked like a very precious item. That depends on what it is. Dustless smiled and said softly, the school of thought will naturally be destroyed. Who asked them to go against me? As for your Lai Mountain Hall and Tianmi's Kuei Hall, they will naturally be preserved. Is this your bottom line? Tianyan was displeased. She wanted the entire school of thought to be safe and sound, not just Lai Mountain Hall and Kuei Hall. I hope you will respect yourself, Miss Tian. Although I don't know what you have brought, it will be best if it can move me. If it can't, your Lai Mountain Hall will also be unlucky. Wu Chun stretched and immediately changed to a comfortable position. Moreover, everything has its value. It's good enough to let go of your Lai Mountain Tang. You have to know how to be tactful. I think you should understand the principle that a human's heart is not like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Well, take it. In the end, Tianmi took the silver tooth and threw the bundle away. Straightforward. I like to make deals with Miss Tianyan's people. That Tianmi wanted to plot against me. Her character is too bad. If it weren't for the fact that she would give me Zhang Liang's head, her head would have fallen to the ground. Seeing the bundle thrown to him, Dustless nodded with satisfaction and reached out to grab it. Wanxiang Tianying. What treasure is it? Why is it so mysterious? Sucking the bundle over, Dustless could not wait to shatter the cloth, revealing an extremely delicate brocade box about the size of a football. I believe that this thing will definitely satisfy the hierarch. Tianyin showed a confident smile. It seemed that she had a card up her sleeve, and was sure that this thing would pique Dustless's interest. This thing has an extraordinary significance to the school of Yinyang. After a moment of silence, Tianyin suddenly added, extraordinary significance to the school of Yinyang? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Tianyin in surprise. This woman seemed to know a lot about the school of Yinyang. Things that had an extraordinary significance to the school of Yinyang were really rare. Other than the phantasmal sound treasure box, it seemed that there was only. Could it be that? Suddenly remembering something, Dustless opened the brocade box in a hurry. Sure enough, there was a golden copper box that he had been yearning for day and night. It really is the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Why would this thing fall into the hands of your school of thought? Chapter 1972. Dustless's heart was filled with astonishment. He had never expected that this thing would fall into the hands of the farmer party. The two were completely unrelated. The farmer party has 100,000 disciples, and their ability to gather information is second among the 100 schools of thought. No one dares to claim to be first, Tianyin said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Her words were filled with a faint smugness. You have a point. Hearing this, Dustless uncharacteristically agreed with Tianyin's point of view. He stared at the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, and then sighed. I really don't understand why Linger wants this thing. Divine might. Space twisted as Dustless sucked the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon into a different space. The 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon and the Yellowstone Heavenly Book have been obtained. After countless twists and turns, the mission was completed. Dustless gave a rare, happy and sincere smile. His gaze softened as he looked at Tianyin. He said warmly, if the farmer party is willing to give up on opposing the Qin, I can reluctantly let them go. You have the right to do this? You have already exceeded your authority. Tianyin's face was filled with shock. Pardon or convict the farmer party seemed to be the emperor's right. With my relationship with Fusu, he will definitely give me this face. Fusu was a generous person and knew how to repay kindness. If Dustless asked, he would agree. After all, Dustless had saved him many times. Especially this time, if not for Dustless, not only would Fusu's life have ended, the Qin Empire might have collapsed. However, Dustless suddenly changed the topic and continued, Miss Tian, don't think that this is the case for everyone. Dirty things will always be dirty things. No matter how you wash them, they will always have flaws. Tianyin fell silent. She naturally knew what Dustless meant. Those stubborn anti-Qin people would probably die no matter what. For example, his second uncle Tian who, the barely surviving Gunye, Tianming, Xiaoyu, and the others would definitely die. Time flew by and another 3 days passed in a hurry. During this period of time many big things had happened. What was worth mentioning was that Fusu had naturally become the successor of the Great Qin Empire. In history, this position had belonged to Huhai, and it was Huhai who had caused the collapse of the Great Qin Empire. That fellow Fusu is indeed the same as the rumors. He is much kinder than his father Ingzheng. On the mirage, Dustless looked at the distant sea. Under the glow of the sunset, the entire sea seemed to be plated with a layer of dazzling gold. As the saying went, a new official makes 3 sweeping changes. Fusu, the new emperor, was not an exception. He first abolished the harsh laws of the Qin, and removed all the insane punishments. This caused the Qin to receive much support from the people. Cruel punishments such as being dismembered by 5 horses were all cancelled. Secondly, it was worth mentioning that Fusu respected the Confucian school and was very grateful to Dustless. He had included many of the Confucian school's sages in the country's constitution, and had even conferred some of the people in the Little Sage Manor official positions. Of course, Dustless was also within the scope of the invitation, but he rejected it. The reason was very simple. Letting Dustless destroy a world was his specialty. As for governing a country, It was better to find someone else. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, the sound of porcelain breaking suddenly rang out. Dustless turned his head slightly and stared at the enraged woman. When he saw the shattered porcelain on the ground, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Tianmi, get this straight. This is the mirage, not your Kuei Hall. The person who had broken the porcelain in anger was the enraged Tianmi. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless, and the anger in her eyes could not be concealed. Is the Yinyang school so despicable? How dare you go back on your words? The anger in Tianmi's heart grew stronger and stronger. Her entire body was bright red, as if she was about to be burned. Her entire body was filled with scorching heat waves. Go back on my words. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and said calmly, I don't know what you're talking about, but please pay attention to your status. This is the mirage of the Yinyang school. It's not a place for a shrew like you to vent your anger. Dustless's sudden words almost made Tianmi faint. She glared at Dustless and trembled with anger. How dare you call me a shrew? That's right. In my eyes, you're a shrew who goes back on her words. Dustless looked at Tianmi's burning eyes and repeated softly. How long has it been? You haven't brought Zhongliang's head yet, and you still dare to break things in the mirage. If you're not a shrew, what are you? I'm not the only one who goes back on her words. Since the Yinyang school has cooperated with our Kuei Hall, why do you still contact that woman, Tianyan? Isn't this going back on your words? Tianmi's words were like pearls. She had sent people to secretly observe Tianyan's every move. Even if I go back on my words, you're the one who went back on your words first. Zhongliang's head has been delayed again and again. My patience has been exhausted, so I have to find another way out. If I had known that the Kuei Hall was so useless, I would have killed you decisively instead of talking about cooperation with you. After all, the way I handled this matter was naive. Dustless belittled Tianmi and her Kuei Hall as worthless. He did not care about Tianmi's livid and murderous face at all. Dustless was not scared. Are you going to tear up the cooperation agreement? Tianmi asked coldly. If I wanted to tear up the agreement, you would have been torn into pieces by now. But it's undeniable that I have a better partner. It's possible for me to tear up the agreement. You know what it means to choose the best tree to nest in, don't you? So, if you don't want you and the force behind you to be destroyed, then work hard. Chapter 1973. Despicable bastard. Stop talking to yourself. Tianmi glared at him. Dustless's contact with Tianyan had already crossed her bottom line. Now Dustless's attitude really angered her. You're getting a little carried away. Have you forgotten what I said before? With a cold expression, Dustless said coldly, it seems that your value needs to be reassessed, so that you won't be as arrogant as you are now. Reassess? Hearing this, Tianmi snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, her charming face changed and she said with a smile, Sect Master, do you know why I handed Sister Duanmu to you? Don't call me Sister Duanmu. You're not qualified. You two are not familiar with each other. Dustless looked at Tianmi indifferently. He found this woman more and more unpleasant to the eye. Haha. Unexpectedly, Tianmi was not disgusted by Dustless's disgusted tone. Instead, she laughed in relief. However, there was a sting in her laughter, which made Dustless even more unhappy. Miss Tianmi. When Dustless was about to give the order to expel her, Tianmi suddenly spoke. Sect Master, is Miss Duanmu lacking physical strength these few days and has not eaten? Even if she has eaten some food, it would be coarse grains like porridge. Tianmi suddenly changed the topic. On the surface, it sounded like nonsense, but Dustless frowned. How do you know? Dustless narrowed his eyes. He keenly sensed that something was wrong. Duanmu Rong really had these symptoms, but Dustless did not care. Perhaps she was not acclimatized to a new environment. Could it be? Thinking of Tianmi's nature, Dustless's face suddenly fell. He said sternly, could it be that you poisoned Ronger? Yes. Looking into Dustless's eyes, Tianmi admitted frankly and explained, my strength is not as good as Sect Master's, so I can only do it from other aspects. Don't talk about Sect Master's friends. They are much more careless. So it was poisoned. Dustless's eyes rolled, and the killing intent that he had hidden instinctively burst out in an instant. Tianmi, do you know what your actions are? Dustless forcibly suppressed the rage in his body and said in a hoarse voice, Heaven has opened a bright path for you, but you heartlessly rejected it. Instead, you chose the dark path to hell. Are you so stupid that no medicine can save you? You still dare to talk to me with such an attitude. Hearing this, Tianmi's face twitched. Dustless's woman was poisoned, and this guy still dared to be so arrogant. He really didn't care about Duanmurong's life at all. Jiejia, Dustless gradually revealed his true nature. His eyes were filled with blood mist, and his entire being was as cold as ice. Perhaps you know about my past and feel how stupid your actions are. As soon as his voice fell, Dustless's eyes began to spin, and the Sharingan emitted an ominous light. What do you want to do? Tianmi's face was full of fear. Seeing Dustless's blood-red eyes, her body was boiling uncontrollably, and her whole body was filled with an indescribable oppression. What do I want to do? You will understand immediately. Dustless smiled evilly, stared at Tianmi's eyes and said, Have you tried the legendary torture of death by 1,000 cuts, car splitting, and knee digging? Gulp. Hearing this, Tianmi reflexively took a few steps back. She couldn't help but touch Dustless's bottom line. She quickly said, You want to ignore Duanmurong's life? If you kill me, she will also die. Didn't I tell you before? Being protective of the fairer sex doesn't mean that you won't kill women. Dragons have reverse scales, and you will die slowly in panic. No matter who it was, traitors were extremely hated, and Dustless was no exception. Even the extent of his hatred for Tianmi reached an unprecedented level. This fellow said that she would cooperate with him, but secretly, she poisoned Duanmurong. What's the use of keeping such a vicious person? It's best to send her to heaven. Tsukuyomi. With a slight blink of her eyes, Tianmi's pupils instantly turned dark and empty. Plop. In the next second, Tianmi fell to the ground, as if she was experiencing an unprecedented panic. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Dustless saw the terrified Tianmi and couldn't help but shake his head. Then he decisively walked over, and his eyes turned into the Samsara Sharingan. I can extract your memories and see the antidote and the location of the farmer family's group. The big hand grabbed Tianmi's head, and a majestic memory suddenly poured into her mind. Everything about Tianmi's past and the farmer family's secret base appeared in Dustless's eyes. Dustless was extracting Tianmi's memories, and at this moment, something incredible was happening in another direction. What? Lai Mountaintang wants to withdraw from the alliance and give up hunting down Dustless? In the dead silent room, Tianhu's angry voice sounded. He smashed the table angrily and cursed. What's wrong with the yen? How dare he tear up the agreement we made? This I don't know. Miss also advised us to abandon the dark and join the light and stop resisting the Qin state. Tianzhong said helplessly. Give up? No way. Yingzheng is dead now. How can we just give up like that? Thought Wuqi. In the future, when the Qin state is overthrown, I want to try the emperor's position under his butt. Tianhu's face was full of longing. Facing the emperor's position, no one could let it go. In that case, why don't we go all the way and just give Lai Mountaintang? Tianzhong made a throat-cutting gesture, and the meaning was self-evident. Chapter 1974. You mean to kill them? Tianhu understood what Tianzhong meant immediately. He shook his head resolutely and said, Tianzhong, we can kill Tianyan, but we can't destroy Lai Mountain Hall. What do you think, brother? Tianzhong asked curiously. In his eyes, Tianmi was just like her name. She was always like a tiger and rarely used her brain. I value the throne. Those people of Lai Mountain Hall are suitable to be soldiers and cannon fodder. Tianhu said with a gloomy and cruel smile. Everyone yearned to be the emperor, stepping on the heads of all living beings and becoming the noblest person in the world. This was a new experience that no one had ever had before. Most likely, no one would be able to resist it. Not everyone was as bored as Dustless. For example, Tianhu. As the saying went, Life is short, plants and trees are short. Wasn't it everyone's yearning to make use of this short life to bloom the most dazzling years? In this case, you can't blame us for being cruel. After thinking for a while, Tianzhong was not an indecisive person. He agreed immediately. Let's take enough people and go to Yan's trouble now. It's best if she is obedient. If not, we will kill Tian Yan and her brother Tian Ci immediately. Then we will take over Lai Mountain Hall. After that, we will deal with the other hall leaders and unify the agriculture family. At that time, the second leader will be the hero leader. Ah, you are right. Tian Hu nodded with satisfaction and left excitedly. He went straight to the base of Lai Mountain Hall. About 2 hours later, the heavens didn't play nice. Dark clouds gathered in the depths of the sky, and a heavy rain was brewing. Boom, boom, boom. After an unknown period of time, perhaps a few short minutes, or perhaps a few hours, the lightning in the void flickered incessantly, and a torrential downpour fell from the sky, covering the entire earth. Damn Tianyan. He dared to betray me. Damn it. Inside the morning hall of the former clan leader, Tian Meng, Tian Hu was roaring like a madman. After going around in a big circle, he was shocked to find that all the people in the base of Lai Mountain Hall had already left. There was only an empty morning hall left in the big room. Tian Hu was shocked and angry. Although he was happy that Tian Yan helped him to plot against others, he was depressed that he was tricked. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The furious Tian Hu smashed Tian Meng's memorial tablet. He looked like he was about to explode. His hair stood on end, and blue veins popped out on his fists. Big brother, do you think second miss will? Tianzhong narrowed his small eyes, which were flickering with a gloomy gleam, and said, ever since we succeeded in assassinating Ying Zhang, it seems that she has been obeying us in public, but opposing us in private. You mean? Hearing this, Tian Hu's expression changed drastically. He was not an idiot. Naturally, he smelled a conspiracy. He said furiously, are you saying that she betrayed us and might have sided with the Qin army? It's not impossible. The smarter a person is, the more unreliable they are. Tianzhong nodded. He was very suspicious of Tian Yan's whereabouts and motives. Damn it, I'll let you know the consequences of betraying me, Tian Hu. Tian Hu snatched a blazing torch from one of his subordinates and set the entire morning hall ablaze in an instant. Even the coffin of Tian Meng, who had died, was not spared. He burned all of them into ashes. Retreat. Remember, if you find Tian Yan, that stinking girl, kill her without mercy. Without thinking, Tian Meng went directly to other farming strongholds. His target was Shenong Hall. Second master, what are you? Tianzhong looked at Tian Hu, whose face had darkened in confusion, and said with confusion, are you going to make trouble for Shenong Hall? They are not to be trifled with. Even if they are not to be trifled with, I have to. Tian Hu looked stubborn. He also knew that he could not touch a tiger's butt, but sometimes, there were too many things that were beyond his control. He did not give Tian Hu any extra choice. Rolling his eyes, Tian Hu said in a deep voice, Lai Mountain Hall has betrayed us. Now the farming clan must be in chaos. We have to massacre Shenong Hall as a warning to others. But Tianzhong was in a dilemma. He was afraid that even if Shenong Hall was destroyed, Chiyu Hall and Gonggong Hall would be greatly weakened. Damn Tian Hu, this hatred will be washed away with your blood in the future. In the dense forest not far away, seeing Tian Hu and the others leave, flashing figures in the forest quietly rushed out. They were Tian Yan and the people of Lai Mountain Hall, who looked pale. This guy is so shameless. He even burned down the morning hall of the hall master. He used to call the hall master Big Brother, but now he did something worse than a beast. The disciples of Lai Mountain Hall were full of hatred, including Tian Yan. Tian Meng was a good person, and his prestige in Lai Mountain Hall was unparalleled. Most of the disciples loved and respected him very much. But the embarrassing thing was that no one dared to make trouble for Tian Hu. This guy was very strong, and his internal strength was unbelievably deep. If they challenged him, they would only be seeking their own death. I can only ask him for help. I hope Dustless will agree to my conditions. Tian Yan subconsciously thought of Dustless's face. It seemed that except for Dustless, No one could suppress Tianhu. Lai Mountain Hall attacked Chiyu Hall and Gonggong Hall with only one hall's strength, which was asking for trouble. Tianyin was also desperate. Although her intelligence was unparalleled, her strength was really not flattering. Her younger brother was known as the #1 expert in the farmer's family. Tianyin did not want to drag him into this big trouble. Chapter 1975. Even though, to a certain extent, Tianyin also knew that her actions were foolish, she was still angered by Tianhu's actions. This guy burned my father's morning hall. Tianyan's eyes were filled with tears. No one could bear such a thing, especially Tianhu, who had always called her father Big Brother. She did not expect him to be so cruel and heartless at this moment. It was not difficult to see that Tianhu's previous kindness was fake. "Miss, why don't you sit on the mountain and watch?" Tianhu went to the Zhu family of Shenong Hall. In the end, both sides would suffer. If the Zhu family could be destroyed easily, they would have disappeared long ago. Beside Tianyan, some far-sighted disciples of Lai Mountain Hall suggested softly, "No need to wait." Hearing this, Tianyan turned and left without saying anything. Her eyes were very determined. It seemed that she was going to find Dustless. Some things were absolutely intolerable. About 10 to 10 hours later, on the Mirage. "Miss Tian, do you want to invite me to destroy Tianhu of Chiyu Hall?" Hearing this, Dustless's face was indescribably strange. If he did not know the inside story, it would be fine. The key was that Dustless was a time traveler, so he naturally knew some secrets very well. "I remember that you are allies. Chiyu Hall, Lai Mountain Hall, Gonggong Hall and Tianmi. You seem to have formed an alliance with each other." Dustless asked calmly, "You know this kind of thing?" Looking at Dustless meaningfully, Tianyin did not talk nonsense and said directly, "I advised Tianhu to give up the plan of anti-Qin, but he refused. It seems that he intends to annex Lai Mountain Hall left by my father. That bastard also burned my father's morning hall. I can't ignore it. Even if I have to die, I will make him pay with his blood." "Damn it." Tianyin cursed angrily and then said with a confused face, "I really don't understand why he has to fight against Qin. I have promised to give the position of hero chief to Tianhu. Miss Tian, you are smart all your life, but you are stupid now. Are you confused? Actually, the reason why he worked so hard to oppose Qin is very simple." Dustless was rather surprised, as he did not expect that Tianyin could not even understand such a basic question. Then he explained, "Everyone under the heavens is passionate about opposing Qin. No matter it is Yandan in the past or Tianhu now, including Zhao Gao and Li Si. There is only one reason behind all of this. And that is the position that Ing Zheng left for Tianyan." "You mean the position of emperor?" After all, Tianyan was the #1 female strategist in the Farmers Guild. She naturally knew what Dustless was talking about. "Then why aren't you tempted?" Calmly glancing at Dustless, Tianyan asked quietly, "With your strength, it should not be a problem for you to overthrow the Qin state. Even the rebellion a while ago, if it were not for you, the seemingly powerful Qin state would have collapsed today. That's because you don't know my past." Hearing this, Dustless only revealed a faint smile and explained softly, "As the old saying goes, one's life lasts only 1 year. This is only relative to humans. Some higher-level creatures have a lifespan that is far beyond your imagination. Naturally, they had experienced countless things. They did not have any desire for power, and had long since faded away. Just like Xiao Meng of the Heaven sect of Taoism, not everyone pursues the so-called dream of becoming an emperor. However, at the very least, most humans are very interested in the position that is second only to the heavens. Tianhu is just one of them." "What a strange guy." Tianyin did not understand what Dustless was talking about, but hearing Dustless's vicissitudes of life, he had indeed experienced much more than her. "So, what do you think? Are you willing to help me deal with Tianhu?" Tianyin shifted the topic back to the main track, and looked at Dustless expectantly. "Well." Looking into Tianyan's eyes, Dustless was silent for a while, then nodded and agreed. "Although I am a selfish person, but thanks to you for helping me find the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. There is no harm in helping you once. Besides, I promise Fusu to help him destroy the farmer family. Leave this matter to me. After all, that group of small fries are frogs at the bottom of the well. They can't do anything. The reason why he was willing to help Tian Yen this time was because of the gratitude sent by the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Moreover, he had promised Fusu to help him destroy the farmer family's rebels. To some people such as Tianmi, Dustless would not admit to his promises. After all, the other party was shameless first. While cooperating with him, Tianmi also kept in touch with others. Dustless had always been disdainful of such people who dared to secretly poison others. However, Tianyan was different. She had at least the basic sincerity, unlike Tianmi who was wavering and did not even have a basic attitude. Lead the way, Miss Tian. Standing up and stretching, Dustless slowly walked over from the main seat. Lead the way. Hearing this, Tianyan was first stunned, then said speechlessly, just the 2 of us? Don't we need to bring the rest of the Yinyang school? About that, of course not. Dustless said calmly, I know that there are as many as 100,000 disciples in the farmer family, but forgive me for being blunt, most of them are a motley crew. Once they see that something is wrong, they will be like birds startled by the twang of a bough and collapse on their own. I alone am enough to deal with them. That's true. Tian Yen smiled bitterly. Although Dustless's words were unpleasant to hear, it was the truth. More people meant that the quality would definitely drop. This was an unavoidable fact. But do you really have the confidence to defeat them? Otherwise, the 2 of us will be walking into a trap. Tianyan was still worried. He felt that Dustless was overestimating himself. Who knows? Glancing at Tianyan, Dustless teased. Dying under a peony flower is also a romantic thing. Although this is not bad, I haven't lived enough, so I can only let Tian Hu and the rest die. Chapter 1976. Tian Yen stared at Dustless. To be honest, she wasn't very happy or excited. Does this guy have an ulterior motive? Tian Yen couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He began to consider what Wu Chen's intentions were. Why are there so many people who like to treat other people's good intentions as cruel and unscrupulous? Seeing the hesitant Tian Yen, Wu Chen immediately guessed that she had other thoughts. She was afraid that he would harm Lai Mountain Tang. Dustless couldn't help but sigh softly. You are not a fish. How can you know the joy of a fish? Don't you think it's interesting and vivid to watch a person die in panic? Interesting? Vivid? Tian Yen raised her eyebrows and said coldly, with all due respect, I don't understand your principles, but now I can see that you are a vulgar man with bad taste. This is not vulgar or bad taste. I am exploring the nature of people. Glancing at Tian Yen indifferently, Dustless said calmly, the strong wind knows the strong grass, and the board knows the loyal minister. A person can only reveal his inner nature when he is most frightened and helpless. In the past, the people you saw were just a layer of skin draped over their bodies. Isn't your second uncle Tian Hu like this? When he saw Miss Tian choose the Yinyang school, he immediately revealed his nature. This. Tian Yen pursed her thin lips and found herself speechless. Although she felt that Dustless's words were unreasonable, what he said was also somewhat reasonable. It was at the critical moment that Tian Hu's nature could be seen. He called Tian Yan's father Big Brother, but he actually burned Tian Meng's morning hall. Apathetic and supercilious. This was Tian Hu's nature. I heard that you, the head of the Confucian school, are illiterate, but your fallacious reasoning can make others speechless. Tian Yen, who had no choice but to nod and lead the way. Haha, let's go. Seeing the Tian Yen who was willingly convinced, Dustless was pleased with himself in his heart. In addition to his own strength, Dustless had practiced a god-level eloquence for hundreds of years. At this moment, in another direction, kill all the people of Shenong Hall. In the wilderness, a group of barbaric slaughters were carried out. Both sides had bloodshot eyes. Between them, even if they belonged to the same faction in the past, at this moment, they were engaged in a life-and-death battle as if they were enemies. After Yingzheng was killed, the enraged Qin army had turned the entire Mulberry Sea city upside down. Anyone who was suspicious was brought back and interrogated, trying their best not to let anyone escape. The farmers were also forced to move deep into the mountains to avoid being captured by the Qin army. Tianhu, are you crazy? Yingzheng is dead, and you are attacking Shenong Hall? What are you trying to do? If you want it, I'll give it to you. In a certain isolated and spacious area, the security was tight. Killing was going on all around, and only this place was like heaven. The people from both sides were faintly restraining themselves. Xiakui. Tianhu held up his hands and looked at the short man wearing a mask in front of him with a sneer. Old bastard Zhu, you are still so childish and boring. You said you would give it to me. Do you think I am a child? Humph, Yingzheng is dead. We don't need to kill each other. Everything is over. Zhu Jia's face was gloomy. He labeled Tianhu as a moron. The killing within the farmers would only make the enemies happy. Over? How can it be over? I still want to overthrow Fusu and become the emperor. The Xiakui is also mine, the emperor is also mine, and the world is also mine. Tianhu no longer concealed his madness and said bluntly, of course, if you are willing to kill yourself now, I will let Shenong Hall go. This kind of killing behavior is no different from setting fire to oneself. Gunye frowned. He hated this kind of extreme method. To put it bluntly, Tianhu just wanted to annex Shenong Hall, and then gather all the forces of the farmers. With this as the basis, he would completely eradicate the entire Qin state. To think that there would be such an exciting show in the wilderness. What a pleasant surprise. An indifferent voice suddenly rang out in the sky. Everyone subconsciously looked into the distance and saw that in the sky, groups of flashes of light were quickly converging and gradually condensing into a human figure. Dustless. Gunye and Dustless could be considered old acquaintances. When he heard this voice, he knew that something was wrong. When he saw the mocking expression on Dustless' face, his expression became even more solemn. Oh no, Tianming and Xiaoyu, the two of you hurry up and escape. Gunye hurriedly urged Tianming and Xiaoyu to escape. Dustless was here, and he did not have the confidence to stop him. This fellow was too strong to fight. He can fly. The farmers were all dumbfounded. Dustless's body was strangely floating in the sky. His clear eyes were emotionless as he looked down at everything. What an eyesore! Shoot him down! Tianhu shouted angrily. Being looked down at by Dustless made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Swish, swish, swish. Hearing Tianhu's order, the disciples of the Shenong Hall immediately took up their bows and shot at the sky. A rain of arrows immediately tore Dustless into shreds. Poochie! 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 Dustless's body was pierced through repeatedly, but he was completely fine. His wounds were healed by the elemental energy, and he was as good as new in an instant. He was completely unscathed. You don't know what death is. Seeing this, Dustless's face turned cold. Originally, he did not want to waste his time on this group of small fries. Would a giant like him fight with ants? There was no need for that at all. However, since these people had chosen to die, he would be letting them down if he did not send them to hell. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Large ripples appeared in the void all over the sky. Then countless divine weapons emerged from the ripples. Treasure of the King. Chapter 1977. Gulp. Everyone was stunned when they saw the sky filled with light. Was there a need for such a large number of weapons? Taking a closer look, the entire sky was filled with a golden divine halo. What kind of strange trick is this? Do the school of Yin Yang and the Confucian school have such evil tricks? Tianhu was dumbfounded. Countless divine weapons filled the air. Even if each disciple of the school of agriculture needed 100 weapons to deal with them, this number was more than enough. Farewell, small fries. With a wave of his hand, the divine light that filled the sky poured down. Poochie! 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 A massacre that was too horrible to look at immediately began. The bodies of countless disciples of the School of Agriculture were pierced through, and they were attacked by tens of thousands of weapons. How miserable was this end? It was a blessing to be able to keep their corpses intact. Run! That guy is an evil ghost. How can there be such an evil ghost? He's a demon. Run. In an instant, the disciples of the School of Agriculture were all killed by Dustless. Only a small number of disciples managed to escape, but they were all covered in wounds. Everyone looked at the cold figure in the sky in horror. Their faces were filled with fear and panic. Damn it! Tianhu was furious. He looked around and saw that the scene was bloody and cruel. In less than a minute, all the disciples of the Chiyu Hall had been killed by Dustless. Oh, you're not convinced? Dustless landed on the ground and looked at Tianhu mockingly. He said sarcastically, Tianhu, you want to be the emperor with your stupid appearance? Are you a pig? How dare you humiliate me in a battle royale? Tianhu was furious when he heard this. Dustless dared to call him a pig in front of the Zhu family and everyone else. Not to mention the hot-tempered Tianhu, anyone else would not have been able to tolerate this. Don't be fooled. If you get angered by Dustless, we will be defeated one by one. Gunya frowned and tried to dissuade Tianhu. This Tianhu was too stupid. Destroy them one by one? When he heard this, Dustless could not help but laugh, and a look of disdain appeared on his face as he said, I can understand if someone else said this, but Gunya, don't you think you're lying to yourself? You should know my strength very well. It wasn't that Dustless was looking down on them. Even if this group of people were to attack together, the effect would be next to nothing. Mr. Jean. Tianhu was too lazy to talk nonsense. With a wave of his hand, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face and a vicious look in his eyes walked out with a majestic gait. Seeing this, Dustless frowned and scolded loudly. Where did this handyman come from? If you don't want to die, get lost. You. Hearing this, the swordsman called Mr. Jin's lips trembled. Dustless's words made him very angry. What did he mean by doing odd jobs? Have you ever seen a handyman wield a sword? Preposterous. This was not the most important thing. Dustless looked at Mr. Jean as if he was looking at an ant, which deeply infuriated Mr. Jean. Clang, clang, clang. Mr. Jean unsheathed his sword, which glowed with a dangerous light. He glanced coldly at Dustless and charged forward. Nameless Junior die. Seeing that this old man had overestimated himself and was courting death, Dustless naturally did not hold back. He immediately launched a fierce attack, and a dangerous ball of energy appeared at the tip of his finger. Void Flash. Swish, swish, swish. The golden ball of energy was extremely fast, and it took only a few seconds to form. Then Dustless flicked his finger. Boom, boom, boom. A huge ball of fire appeared in the air. Before the swordsman called Mr. Jean could figure out what was going on, his body was destroyed by the merciless heat wave. He disappeared without a trace, and not even a corpse was left behind. Boring. Dustless glanced at Tianhu Gunya, and the rest with a bored expression. Next, or all of you can come at me together. Dustless's casual and disdainful tone infuriated everyone. I'll do it. An unexpected figure suddenly appeared. He stepped on the snow without leaving a single trace. It seemed like his lightness skills were extremely profound. It's another familiar face. So it's Daoji. After seeing who it was, Dustless suddenly smiled strangely. That's right, I have to thank you for the assassination incident previously, Daoji. Assassination incident. Daoji, who had intended to attack directly, was stunned by Dustless's words. He asked in confusion, What are you talking about? I don't understand. Ayaya, how long has it been since that incident? Have you forgotten? Dustless smiled sinisterly. He then purposely reminded Daoji, A few days ago, you snuck into the elusive mirage and eavesdropped on my conversation with the moon goddess. That happened not too long ago. What? You discovered me? Daoji's eyes went wide, his face filled with disbelief. Then he roared furiously, Impossible. If you've really discovered me, you shouldn't have told me the time of Ing Zheng's tour to the east, and the time of his arrival in Mulberry Sea. This guy. Although Daoji was not very smart, there were still some who were more intelligent than others, such as Master Fan. His eyes flickered and his fists clenched. He seemed to have understood the conspiracy behind this. Hehe. How rare. Fortunately, there are still some smart people among you. Seeing Gunya's awkward expression, Dustless mocked him loudly. That's right. I was the one who leaked the news of Ing Zheng's visit to the Mulberry Sea on purpose. My goal was to attract you rebels and capture all of you in one fell swoop. Humph, then your plan will be ruined. You should know that Ing Zheng is dead, right? Daoji sneered. He felt that Dustless had shot himself in the foot. Idiots, haven't you figured it out yet? The person who killed Ing Zheng is me. Do you really think that the wrath of heaven killed Ing Zheng? A bunch of idiots. Chapter 1978. Dustless's words were like a huge boulder that fell into the deep sea, causing a huge ripple. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Their bodies seemed to be imprisoned and unable to move. Among them, the one who reacted the most intensely was naturally the terrified Daoji. At first he was still proud of himself. After all, it was because of the information he obtained that they were able to kill Ing Zheng. Otherwise, this guy might have lived a few more thoughts, and Ing Zheng would not have died. As for those who died because of the mission, he could only say sorry. Since it was a mission, there must be some sacrifices. All in all, it was worth it to be able to kill Ing Zheng. Impossible, 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 absolutely impossible. The thief shook his head like a rattledrum. Looking at Wu Chen's handsome face, which was full of ridicule, he felt a heavy blow to his heart. All along he had been proud of himself. After all, he was the one who got the information. But now, what made Daoji collapse was that all of this was a trap set by Dustless. His great contribution had also become his greatest humiliation. Impossible? Dustless curled his lips in disdain and humiliated loudly. Daoji, you are an idiot. Do you really think your movement technique is unparalleled? This is too funny. Huff huff huff. Hearing Dustless's harsh mockery, Daoji's face turned red with anger and his body trembled. Brother Daoji, you must stay calm. Don't be fooled. Master Fan quickly reminded him, hoping that Daoji would calm down. But it seemed to be useless. Human nature is indeed fragile. Looking at the dazed robber Ji, Dustless casually picked up a blade of grass and held it in his mouth. He sighed with emotion. Once a person's belief collapses, this person will inevitably become a walking corpse. There's no need to even kill him. Dustless glanced at the people of Xiang clan and said indifferently, next. As for Daoji, Dustless gave him a quick glance and ignored him. It was not hard to see that this guy was ignored. Perhaps, Daoji had fallen into endless fear for the rest of his life. You. The people of the Farmers clan and the disciples of the Xiang clan all glared at Dustless. They were all filled with righteous indignation and hatred for Dustless. How could you be so despicable? The clear voice looked over, full of confidence, like the embodiment of justice, causing people to raise their eyebrows. This is... Dustless's line of sight slightly froze. He looked in the direction of the voice, and a young man with an imposing appearance, like a god descending to the mortal world, came into view. Xiaoyu, get back here. When Master Fan and the others saw Dustless staring at Xiaoyu, their faces filled with worry. They tried to protect him, but he was too strong. He forced his way out of the crowd. So it's the future hegemon of Western Chu, Xiaoyu. What advice do you have for me? Dustless looked at Xiaoyu with a smile. When he saw the righteous indignation on Xiaoyu's face and thought of Xiangyu's actions in history, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I know you are born with extraordinary strength, but do you think you can defeat me? You sinister villain. How dare you scheme against everyone? You are so despicable. Xiaoyu was not as shrewd as Master Fan and the others. He said straightforwardly, if you have the guts, let's duel face to face. What's the point of playing such tricks? TSK, your ability to play the blame game has reached perfection. Even I can't catch up with you. Dustless gave Xiaoyu a thumbs up and praised. I also wonder just who are the ones who have been hiding here and they're like rats all along. Of course it's you, you big bastard. The other people of the Farmers clan also stood up to support Xiaoyu, but they were all very afraid. The laws of the Qin state are strict, and the taxes are harsh. Those who commit injustice are doomed to self-destruction. Since ancient times, such a state will inevitably be destroyed. People like you will also be crushed by the wheels of history. Xiangyu's voice was sonorous, and his eyes were shining. He believed in Dustless. You are right, Xiaoyu. Wu Chen nodded and agreed. Starting from Xia, Shang, and Zhou, every country collapsed in the end. In the end, it was caused by the muddle-headed and tyrannical monarchs of their countries. This is very true. But there is one thing that you are wrong about. What is it? Xiaoyu raised an eyebrow and asked. You don't know? Young people really only know how to be hot-blooded. Dustless's lips curled into a playful smile, and his tone became a few times more contemptuous. The land under my feet is not a simple piece of land, nor is it a country or two. I am talking about the whole world. History will prove who is the master and who is the guest. Yes, history will prove everything. You have only won one round. Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, but he did not see the strange smile on Dustless's face. What a pity. You have lost the right to be chosen by history. Now turn into dust. Dustless laughed sinisterly, and a majestic murderous aura locked onto Xiaoyu. He said coldly, history will choose the final winner to be the master of the world. This is not wrong at all. But sorry, I forgot to say something just now. It's not too late to add it now. The one who controls history and decides the direction of the world is me. Now, I declare that you can be swept into the trash heap of history. The reason is that you are too hypocritical. His eyes gently landed on Xiaoyu's head, and his demonic eyes slowly moved, emitting a terrifying aura. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Xiaoyu was evaporated in an instant. Heavenly reflection. Boundless black flames burned on Xiaoyu's body without any warning. He did not even have time to scream before he was burned by the violent black flames. Young lord. The followers of the Xiang clan were dumbfounded as they watched this tragic scene. They did not even have time to save Xiaoyu before he was killed and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1979. Young Master. The lackeys of the Xiang clan all looked at Wu Chen with hatred. Their ferocious and hateful expressions were clearly visible. Their eyes were full of rage, as if they wanted to kill Wu Chen with 1,000 cuts. Only then would they be happy. What kind of gentleman is that? Bah! Dustless ridiculed with disdain. Xiaoyu said that he was helping the tyrant, but what about himself? Although Xiangyu was a great hero in history, he was also a butcher. Xiangyu had organized several massacres in succession. First, after conquering the Qin kingdom, he burned down the entire Xianyang. At least 200,000 people were killed by Xiangyu, and most of them were ordinary people who had no strength to truss a chicken. And this kind of massacre was absolutely not a simple 1 or 2 times. There were records of as many as 6 times. Therefore, Wu Chen felt that Xiaoyu's hypocrisy was laughable. What qualifications did he have to say that Wu Chen was helping the evildoer? Well, let's move on to the next one. Dustless waved his hand. His words made everyone vomit blood. Don't waste time. Let's fight together. Tian, who did not dare to be reserved at this moment. Originally, he wanted to make trouble for the Shenongtang, but now it seemed that his plan was ruined. It would be God's mercy if he was not destroyed by Dustless. Cough, cough, cough. If you want to fight, please stop him first. Situ Wanli, the hall master of the Four Mountains Hall, put on a look of indifference. He put all the responsibility on Tian, who and betrayed him without any integrity. You are the only one who wants to be the emperor. We, the Shenongtang and the Four Mountains Hall, don't have that kind of plan. Zhu Jia, a short fat man with a mask, echoed. Puff. Hearing this, Tian, who was so angry that his blood was boiling. Finally, he spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. Tian, who pointed at Situ Wanli and Zhu Jia with trembling hands and shouted angrily, Bastard, we are all farmers. Don't you understand that we are interdependent? Without the lips, the teeth will be cold. Hearing this, Zhu Jia continued to sneer. When you attacked the Shenongtang, why didn't I see you say that? Now that you're in trouble, you deserve it. You damned bastard. Tian, who flew into a rage. His nostrils flared up like a cow's, and his eyes turned red. The people of Shenong Hall are not easy to kill. Dustless frowned slightly. As for the people of Shenong Hall, this special force was really not easy to deal with. The Zhu clan of the Shinnong clan had a close relationship with Lord Changping. There were even rumors that the Shinnong clan was a life-saving talisman that Lord Changping had left for Fu Su. Lord Changping was Fu Su's uncle. Therefore, Fu Su could destroy the other clans but not the Shinnong clan. In fact, Fu Su considered the Shinnong clan as one of his own from the start. However, according to Dustless's thoughts, Shenongtang wasn't a good person either. He might as well exterminate them. However, Dustless had no choice but to give him some face and muddle through. But speaking of which, other than Xiangyu, I've also seen a great figure. His gaze was fixed on the man behind the Zhu clan. This man was quite handsome, and his eyes were deep. He seemed to be very smart, and there was a smile on his face that didn't care about anything. I'm Lu Ji. As if sensing Dustless's gaze, this man stood out and cupped his fist to greet him. He was very polite, and the first impression he gave people was that he was very friendly and approachable. This guy. Hearing this, Dustless only stared at him deeply and didn't say anything. This Lu Ji was actually Liu Bang, and his reputation had even surpassed the current Emperor Fu Su. Tian Hu, you will definitely die today. At the same time, Tian Yan, who had arrived, let out a cold voice. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he was shocked. You did all of this? Tian Yan was dumbfounded. He had a new understanding of Dustless's strength. It's as you see. Dustless nodded and admitted. He didn't care about Tian Yan's shocked gaze. He had destroyed many worlds, and destroying Chiyu Hall was nothing. You traitors of the farmer's clan, I'll exterminate all of you. A cornered dog would jump over a wall. Tian Hu, who had been driven mad, also unleashed his bestial nature. He didn't even care about Dustless. He turned around and rushed toward the Zhu clan. Bone Demon Tianzhong, let's go together and kill them all. Tian Hu didn't forget to call out to his two underlings. However, he didn't know that a black shadow had already blocked his way. Get out of my way, Dustless. Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Tian Hu angrily rebuked. This is the internal matter of the farmer's clan. Don't interfere. Otherwise I'll even. You're going to kill me too? You're so arrogant. But. Dustless changed the topic. He stared at Tian Hu's stomach and advised. Next time when you say something like this, please take a look at your stomach. What do you mean? Hearing this, Tian Hu was stunned. Then, a scorching pain came from his stomach. He subconsciously looked at his stomach, and his pupils suddenly widened several times. When did this start? Tian Hu was stunned. He didn't know when it started. His stomach had been pierced by Dustless, and he was bleeding nonstop. However, he didn't even have any basic reaction. It was as if nothing had happened. If it weren't for Dustless's reminder, Tian Hu really wouldn't know anything. Die in peace. You can't be the emperor just because you want to. Dustless waved his hand with a look of disdain. This guy was obviously the arrogant type. He was not suitable to be the emperor. He was even worse than Hu Hai, who had been killed before. It was better for him to die early and purify the world. Almost all the ordinary disciples of Chiyu Hall had been wiped out by Gate of Babylon. Occasionally, the fish that escaped the net were disabled. Now that Tian Hu the Hallmaster was dead, Chiyu Hall was gone. Chapter 1980. The remaining disciples of the School of Farmer gasped involuntarily. This level of strength was not something they could compete with. Neither quantity nor quality could defeat this unfathomable man. That skinny body contained explosive power that could easily kill anyone. Tian Hu and the disciples of Chiyu Hall who had died one after another had proven this. Run! Tianzhong and Bone Demon saw that the situation was not good and scrambled to retreat. You are courting death. Seeing this, Wu Chen was not polite at all. He waved his hand, and the ability of Gate of Babylon was launched again. Dozens of vortex ripples appeared in the void, and then dense wizard weapons shot out from it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With a slight thought, a large number of weapons shot out and went straight for the two. Puff. Although their speed was fast and they used all of their strength, it was still too slow. Their bodies were destroyed by the Gate of Babylon, and huge bloody holes appeared on their bodies. Plop. In the end, The two of them looked at Dustless unwillingly and fell to the ground. They died and closed their eyes in despair. It's more or less settled. Looking at the remnants of the school of farmer, Dustless sighed. He did not find any trace of Zhang Liang and the others. Then he felt relieved. The world was so big that it was not easy to find them. Although it was still the feudal ancient times and everything was still in the primitive period, the entire Qin Empire had a population of 20 to 30 million. It was not easy to find Zhang Liang and the others among this group of people. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Of course, it was also possible that after knowing that Ing Zheng was dead, their long-cherished wish was fulfilled, and they all retired from the Jianghu. Although this possibility was very small, Dustless could only hope for the best. Even though he knew that the reality was cruel, sometimes people had to be optimistic. He took it as a way to cheer himself up. Su Ren is too kind in doing things. It is not a good thing to remember old friendships. Dustless looked at the school of farmer, shook his head and left. This guy left just like that. When the crowd saw Dustless leave, they heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, they were also confused. Ha ha ha, there's nothing to be surprised about. Don't forget that our Shenong Hall has a close relationship with Lord Changping, and Lord Changping is Fu Su's uncle. He has no reason to wipe out our Shenong Hall. We didn't participate in the assassination of Ing Zheng either. Young Master Fu Su has a warm personality, unlike Ing Zheng who kills people like flies. Zhu Jia was quite proud and seemed to admire his foresight. Ha ha ha. However, when he heard those words, a cold smile flashed across Lu Ji's face. At the same time, the young man standing beside him, Han Xian, was also hiding his strength. The two of them smiled knowingly, but no one noticed. Are you going to let the Zhu clan off just like that? Tian Yen, who had caught up, looked at Dustless with a perplexed expression. She felt that there was something wrong with this fellow's head. In her eyes, Dustless was the type of person who would seek revenge for the slightest mistake. Do you really believe that the Shenong Hall didn't participate in the assassination of Ing Zheng? Seeing Dustless silent, Tian Yen frowned and asked again. The Shenong Hall was very interested in the assassination of Ing Zheng. If they didn't participate in the assassination, it would be too childish. Of course I know this. Dustless nodded, then shrugged and said indifferently, but I promise Fu Su that as long as the people of the Shenong Hall don't attack us, I won't do anything. And that Han Xian and Lu Ji both participated in the assassination of Ing Zheng, right? It's just that compared to others, they did it in a more subtle way. Dustless's eyes lit up, and he explained softly, that Lu Ji is a big shot. Unfortunately, he is too good at disguising himself. He is even smarter than Zhang Liang. You should be careful of him when you are in the Shenong Hall. Lu Ji? What's so special about him? Tianyan was puzzled. Suddenly, Lu Ji's appearance and his past life appeared in her mind, but it seemed that there was nothing special about him. Not only that, Lu Ji was also very fond of gambling, and often lost everything. He didn't look like a person who could achieve great things. You pay too much attention to his appearance. Sooner or later, you will be killed by others. When a fierce tiger shows its fangs, it means that you have been marked with the label of death. Dustless shook his head. At first, when he saw Lu Ji for the first time, he didn't feel that there was anything special about him. He only felt that he was very friendly. But behind his back, it was different. His eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, so he was definitely a person who was very scheming and shrewd. In history, after the destruction of the Qin state, the founder of the Han dynasty was Liu Bang, who was Lu Ji just now. In this way, was he still an ordinary mortal? No matter which dynasty the founding emperor was in, he had wisdom and strategy far beyond that of ordinary people. How could Lu Ji, who could seize the great rivers and mountains from Xiangyu, be an unknown person? Even Tianyan, the first female think tank of the farmers, was deceived by his appearance. Of course, Tianyan didn't understand what these words meant. Not everyone was a time traveler like Dustless, who had the heaven-defying ability to see the future. Anyway, there's still a long time. Let's wait and see. Dustless walked away calmly. It didn't matter to him whether he was the emperor or not. After all, it wouldn't be long before he left this world and waited for Yin Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality. As for the future of Dustless, Dustless had done his best. Everything was built according to his ideals. Even if the Qin state collapsed in the future, it had nothing to do with Dustless. What a strange guy. She glanced at Dustless and stared at his back as he walked away. She couldn't understand what Dustless was thinking. He was so mysterious and scary every time. Chapter 1981. Those who can be emperors are all ambitious and ruthless people. Wu Chen sighed with emotion as he walked. Before he left, he didn't forget to glance at Lu Ji. Who would have thought that this guy was also staring at him? He immediately smiled gently and elegantly. Is Lu Ji declaring that he is the winner? With a slight frown, Dustless quickened his pace. He was too lazy to argue with this group of rats crossing the street. For some people, the more you care about them, the more arrogant they will be. If you simply ignore them, you might be like an ant on a hot pan and become chaotic in advance. Humph, a fox will always show its tail. I want to see how capable you bunch of clowns are, and what kind of waves you can stir up. Even if you want to stir up a stormy wave, it's best if you don't drown yourselves. Dustless snorted coldly and quickly retreated. The moment he turned his head, Dustless accidentally caught a different kind of expression from Lu Ji's eyes. Disappointment. It seems that Lu Ji is very sad and disappointed that I didn't kill Zhu Jia. Dustless lowered his head and thought. He muttered to himself. Could it be an illusion? It shouldn't be. Could it be that Lu Ji wants to use me to kill Zhu Jia, and then rightfully ascend to the position of the Hall Master? Dustless thought over and over again. This was the only possibility. It should be understood that Zhu Jia's words carried enormous weight in the Shenong Hall. He was very good at gathering people's hearts. He was also very friendly to his subordinates. If he was killed, it would inevitably arouse the hatred of everyone. This guy is really good at calculating. Turning his head and glancing at Lu Ji in surprise, Dustless smiled with admiration. Sure enough, those who can be emperors are the type of people who do things flawlessly. You want me to take the blame for you? Dream on. Dustless narrowed his eyes and sneered. After all, he was also a transmigrator. If he could not even defeat an indigenous emperor more than 2,000 years ago, he might as well find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Moreover, Dustless was also familiar with the development of history. This was his biggest advantage. If I'm not wrong, Lu Ji will definitely kill Zhu Jia. Shenongtang was quite powerful in the farmers' clan. Who was the biggest obstacle for Lu Ji to swallow it? Without a doubt, it was naturally the current hall master of the Zhu clan. As long as this guy didn't die, Lu Ji had no place to make a move. Speaking of which, I wonder how Yun Zhongjuan's refining of the elixir of immortality is going. Rolling his eyeballs, Dustless couldn't help but think of the importance of the immortality pill. For now, the girls in the system were still okay, but as for Duanmu Rong and Xiao Ming, their lifespans were no different from ordinary human beings. As for the matter of Lu Ji, Dustless was more indifferent to it after thinking about it carefully. As long as Lu Ji, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, still wanted to be the emperor, he would definitely show his true colors. It was just a matter of time. According to the development of history in the future, Zhang Liang's inexplicable disappearance is most likely related to this Lu Ji. Moreover, it was worth mentioning that Lu Ji had several loyal subordinates, such as Zhang Liang and Han Xian. In the end, they all became his loyal subordinates. Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and Xiao He were known as the three heroes of the early Han dynasty in history. In the dark secret room, the lights were dim, and the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. What do you think? A rather cautious voice rang out and spread to every corner. Looking up, several black shadows flickered in the dark environment, which was quite strange. Dustless actually took the initiative to leave. The calm tone was filled with confusion. The person continued. I've known Dustless for a long time. He has always been the kind of person who kills all his enemies. Who would have thought that he would let Zhu Jia go at this moment? To be honest, I'm also very surprised. This is the complete opposite of what we had planned. The result is the complete opposite of what we had planned. We miscalculated. These three people were Zhang Liang, Han Xian, Lu Ji, and Xiaoyaozi of Taoism. The one who spoke was Zhang Liang, who was frowning. Originally, I planned to use Dustless to kill Zhu Jia. In this way, Yinyang School and even the Qin Kingdom would inevitably be hostile to Shenong Hall. It would be easy to instigate them. Unexpectedly, Dustless. Alas, the world is really changeable. It seems that my chance hasn't come yet. Lu Ji sighed softly, and his tone was somewhat lost. According to his script, Dustless should be angry and kill Zhu Jia, and then he would smoothly become the new hall chief. Lu Ji was the core disciple of Shenong Hall, and secretly controlled many people. In addition, he had a close personal relationship with Situ Wanli of Four Mountains Hall. At that time, he could take advantage of the situation to fight against the Qin Kingdom. It's too early to say that the time hasn't come yet. Don't forget that we still have a trump card. At this moment, Xiaoyaozi of the Taoist human sect suddenly said, "The value of that card is no less than that of Wuchen. If it is used to kill the Zhu family, the whole Shenong Hall will be in an uproar." "Do you mean her?" In his mind, a wonderful and beautiful figure suddenly appeared. Her temperament was mysterious. This person could only be looked up to, but could not be seen close. Not bad, but it's a pity that it was exposed so early. Zhang Liang also sighed helplessly, and his words were full of resentment. "You bastards are really not good things. I thought you had turned over a new leaf. It turns out that each one of you is more cunning and shameless than the other." What they didn't know was that in the invisible space, a blurry shadow was right in front of them, but Zhang Liang and the others couldn't see its existence at all. This was the shadow of Dustless's tomb of Samsara aboard a prison, and no one could see it clearly. Not only was the power of this move astonishing, but it could also crush the enemy in actual combat. It was also 1 in a million when it was used to gather information. In fact, the moment Dustless left, he left his shadow behind and followed Lu Ji and the others. Chapter 1982. Although using the Tomb of Reincarnation to gather information sounded a little extravagant and appalling, it was undeniable that this technique was perfect in all aspects. No one had discovered the existence of the shadow. The Tomb of Reincarnation was equivalent to hiding in another world. No matter how powerful the technique was, Zhang Liang and the others would not be able to discover it. Although some things have changed, the trajectory of history is still moving forward. Dustless was filled with emotions. He suddenly realized that he had helped Lu Ji once because Lu Ji had an extremely difficult opponent, but he had already killed him. It was a mistake to kill Xiaoyu. If I had known this would happen, I would have let him live a little longer. Maybe he would have fought with Lu Ji. Otherwise, with Xiaoyu as a potential enemy, Lu Ji would never have been able to rise so quickly. Now he was colluding with Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others. In history, the hegemon of Western Chu, Xiangyu and Lu Bang Lu Ji were enemies. Lu Ji had almost been defeated and killed by Xiangyu several times. However, with the help of Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others, Lu Ji finally defeated Xiangyu and forced the hegemon of Western Chu to commit suicide in the Wu River. Speaking of which, who is the trump card they are talking about? Humans were curious creatures, and Dustless was no exception. In fact, he was even more curious than the others. After all, it was not difficult to hear from Zhang Liang and the others that this was a trump card that could turn defeat into victory. This is interesting. I didn't expect them to have such a person as their backer. With a relieved smile, Dustless no longer hesitated and walked unhurriedly toward the mirage. "You are really strange." Tianyan also saw Dustless's strange behavior, and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Encountering trivial matters that you can't understand aroused your interest? Yes. Wu Chen admitted frankly and didn't conceal anything, and he went straight to the point. Everything operates exactly according to what I control. In this way, it's truly too boring, and I can't even find the true essence of life. Occasionally, a few self-righteous rats will jump out. In fact, this is also very interesting. Just treat it as a way to pass the time. When Yin Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality is refined, it will not be too late to feed this group of worthless rats rat poison and poison them to death. Tianyan did not say anything. It was no secret that Yin Zhongjuan was refining the elixir of immortality. The mirage was built for this purpose. The night sky was dotted with stars and the moonlight was like a plate. The scenery was beautiful. The bright moon in the night sky was especially bright and eye-catching. On the elusive mirage, the security was also much more relaxed than usual. Most of the rebels had been killed, so the defense was also relaxed. Although there were still a few fish that escaped the net, most of them were hiding, so it was not a big deal. How's the progress? Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat in the hall, turned his head and glanced at Yin Zhongjuan. He then asked casually, Yin Zhongjuan, I have high hopes for you. This. Yin Zhongjuan raised his head in panic and glanced at Dustless. He cursed inwardly. Being with a king is like being with a tiger. Then he cupped his fists and said, Sect Master, you're too kind. I'm extremely afraid. How's the refining of the elixir of immortality coming along? I need a satisfactory answer. Staring at Yin Zhongjuan, who was sweating profusely, Dustless said softly, Everyone's patience is limited. When a tiger can't stand an empty stomach, it will show its fangs and tear everything apart. Yueshin and concubine Yan, who were standing on both sides of Dustless, glanced at Dustless in surprise. Dustless had always tolerated Yin Zhongjuan, and gave him enough time to refine the elixir of immortality. This had also made Yin Zhongjuan's temper worse. This was normal. With a strong backer, anyone's temper would become worse. Sometimes Yin Zhongjuan even dared to oppose Yueshin, the right guardian and concubine Yan. Yin Zhongjuan was even more nervous. He naturally understood what Dustless meant. He immediately said respectfully, Sect Master, you are blessed by heaven. I have successfully refined the elixir of immortality. Yin Zhongjuan took out a jade bottle from his arms with trembling hands. He pointed at the elixir in the bottle and said, But due to the lack of time, I have only successfully refined one elixir. You really succeeded? Dustless's indifferent face was filled with disbelief. After all, legends were legends. Anyone would be surprised when it became a reality. Hurry up and bring it to me. Dustless quickly hooked his finger, and motioned for Yin Zhongjuan to quickly bring it over for him to take a look. Sect Master, please take a look. Yin Zhongjuan smiled proudly and trotted over. He handed the jade bottle in his hand to Dustless and stroked his beard proudly. He glanced at Yueshin and concubine Yin provocatively and laughed in his heart. Don't think that flattery is only your strength. Humph. The two women snorted coldly. Yin Zhongjuan was becoming more and more arrogant. Is this the so-called elixir of immortality? Dustless glanced at Yin Zhongjuan suspiciously. He poured out the elixir in the bottle, and carefully stared at the golden granules that looked like jelly beans. They were indeed extraordinary. The fragrance of the elixir filled the air, making one's index finger twitch. Something doesn't seem right. Dustless suddenly thought of the fundamental reason why the mirage was built. He couldn't help but doubt the authenticity of the elixir in his hand. Why was the mirage built? It was to find the immortal herbs to refine the elixir of immortality. If Yin Zhongjuan could refine the elixir of immortality directly, what was the use of the mirage? Yin Zhongjuan. After glancing at the elixir in his hand, Dustless suddenly handed it to Yin Zhongjuan and said in a commanding tone, Eat it now, or I will kill you immediately. Dustless's face changed rapidly. There was a cold chill lingering around him. Obviously he was not joking. What is going on? Yin Zhongjuan was stunned. He was fine just now. Why did he suddenly turn hostile? He was even faster than flipping the pages of a book. Chapter 1983. This. Yin Zhongjuan could not breathe properly under Dustless's cold gaze. He trembled as he took the pill from Dustless. His face was dark, and his eyes were fixed on the golden pill. He could not swallow it. Could it be that something is wrong? Concubine Yen and Moon Goddess looked at each other. They could not figure out what Dustless was thinking. Time passed by quickly. When people were anxious, they didn't have any concept of time. Therefore, time passed much faster than usual. It was only a snap of the fingers, but in reality, it had already been around 15 minutes. What's wrong, Yun Zhongjuan? Don't you have confidence in your pill? Seeing that Yun Zhongjuan did not move, Dustless explained softly. Or, do you think that you are very important to me and that I won't kill you? I don't dare. Hearing the hostility in Dustless's words, Yun Zhongjuan hurriedly knelt on the ground in fear. If you don't dare, swallow it. With a sneer, Dustless ordered. Yun Zhongjuan, I will count to 5. If you continue to hesitate for more than 5 seconds, I promise to throw you into the sea to feed the fish. 1, 2, 3. Yun Zhongjuan felt that his spirit was about to collapse. He looked at the golden pill in his hand. In fact, he was not sure. He just made it to fool Dustless. He did not know the specific effect of the pill. Why did he dare to fool Dustless? The reason was actually quite simple. The so-called elixir of immortality could make people immortal. Its effect could only be discerned at the end of one's life. Dustless was young. Even if he ate it, it would not have much effect. Therefore, Yun Zhongjuan dared to fool Dustless. However, what surprised Yun Zhongjuan the most was that Wuchen had never thought that he would give such a precious elixir of immortality to someone else. Moreover, he had even asked Yun Zhongjuan to eat it in front of him. Yun Zhongjuan did not expect this at all. Obviously, Wuchen was using him as a guinea pig for Wuchen to observe the effects of the elixir. Gulp. Yun Zhongjuan had no choice but to swallow the golden ammunition. Yun Zhongjuan, how do you feel? Do you have any signs of returning to your original state? After a few minutes, Dustless lazily asked in a low voice. Yun Zhongjuan was extremely embarrassed by Dustless's question. He hurriedly confessed, Sect Master, please forgive me. Although the efficacy of this pill is amazing, it's still far from immortality. Is that so? Upon hearing this, Dustless looked at Yun Zhongjuan quietly. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. Yun Zhongjuan is in trouble. Imperial concubine Yan and the moon goddess smiled knowingly. They were very happy to see Yun Zhongjuan's misfortune. Yun Zhongjuan had always thought that he was superior to others because he could help Dustless refine the elixir of immortality. This subordinate knows his mistake. Yun Zhongjuan lowered his head in shame, not daring to look into Dustless's eyes. Yun Zhongjuan, you can leave now. Next time, you must bring me the real elixir of immortality. Remember, it's the real deal. Dustless emphasized his words. He then waved his hand and motioned for Yun Zhongjuan to leave. Yun Zhongjuan was stunned for a moment. He thought that Dustless might kill him to vent his anger. He didn't expect that the matter would be settled so hastily. He didn't even punish him. This subordinate will leave now. Seeing that Dustless had forgiven him this time, Yun Zhongjuan quickly bowed and left. The moon goddess and imperial concubine, Yan also looked at Yun Zhongjuan in disbelief. They could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. Since when did Dustless become so kind? It shouldn't be. You two want to ask me why I didn't kill this kid? Leaning his head on his right hand, Dustless said tiredly. It's useless even if I kill Yun Zhongjuan. The elixir of immortality still can't be refined successfully. Instead of that, it's better to show mercy and severity. First, let Yun Zhongjuan feel the fear of death. Then, I'll pardon him easily. What's the difference? Imperial concubine Yan asked in confusion. Of course it's different. Dustless explained faintly. People will only feel how sad it is to lose something when they are worried about gains and losses. If they can start over, they will cherish it more. Yun Zhongjuan almost lost his life this time. In the future, he will cherish his life more. In order not to die, he will work harder for me until he can refine the elixir of immortality. In other words, one will only know how to cherish something after losing it. It seems to be the case. The moon goddess nodded in agreement. She admired Dustless from the bottom of her heart. She thought that this guy was strong, but she didn't expect him to be so thorough in his analysis of human nature. At the same time, another conspiracy was unfolding in another direction. I hope it's worth it. In a secret stronghold deep in the mountains, Lu Ji, Zhang Liang, Han Xian, Gun Ye, Xiao Yaozi, and the others were secretly lurking there. The person who sighed before was Xiao Yaozi. Is that woman really reliable? I heard that she is a lackey of the Qin kingdom. Han Xian looked at Xiao Yaozi, his tone somewhat suspicious and uneasy. Brother Han Xian, don't worry. Xiao Yaozi smiled. Not long ago, I gave the snow of the Taoist school to junior sister Xiaoming and guaranteed that the human sect would be affiliated with the heaven sect in the future. The grudge between us has been resolved. Since the two sects have merged into one, junior sister Xiaoming has no need to make things difficult for us, and even stand on the opposite side of the Qin kingdom. Even if the grudge between the two sides has been resolved, how can you be sure that Xiaoming will stand on the opposite side of the Qin kingdom? Han Xian asked with a frown, feeling a little uncertain. Of course it's the Yinyang school. Don't forget that the Yinyang school was also a part of the Taoist school hundreds of years ago. Xiaoming is a proud person. Will she let the Taoist school be inferior to the Yinyang school? The two sides are destined to part ways. This is inevitable. Chapter 1984. That's right. With Xiaoming's temperament, she would never submit to the school of Yinyang. Zhang Liang and the others had no doubt about this. Xiaoming was arrogant, and even a little arrogant. How could such an arrogant person submit to Dustless? In particular, the school of Yinyang used to be a part of the Taoist school. The main reason why the two sides could cooperate before was that there was an irreconcilable conflict between the Taoist school and the human sect. Xiaoming had always focused on the human sect. However, when Xiao Yaozi admitted defeat, all of this changed. Ever since Xiao Yaozi gave Snow Dawn to Xiao Meng and agreed that the human sect would become a subsidiary of the heaven sect, merging the two into one, the irreconcilable conflict between them instantly disappeared. Now Xiaoming had a new goal, to surpass the school of Yinyang. Alas, Xia Yaozi's face was full of complicated feelings. He had no choice but to make such a heavy decision. Now that the Mo family had been destroyed and so had the quicksand, they could not escape the misfortune. Now they had no choice but to betray the human sect. In fact, this was also for the sake of the continuation of the Taoist school. If the human sect and the heaven sect continued to fight, the entire Taoist school would suffer. What's your plan? Lu Ji asked without batting an eyelid. His eyes were filled with wisdom. Let Sister Xiaoming kill the Zhu family. Taking a deep breath, Xia Yaozi told everyone their plan. He explained, once the Zhu family is dead, the Shenong Hall will be leaderless. Brother Lu Ji is the core disciple of the Shenong Hall, and has roped in many people in private. With the help of Situ Wanli of the Four Mountains Hall, it will be easy for him to become the new hall chief. You guys have a pretty good plan. The tightly shut door suddenly burst open, and an ethereal figure appeared from time to time. Sharing the dust with the light? What a profound mental cultivation method. Everyone revealed astonished expressions. Xiaoming was only 18 years old now. Yet she had already cultivated the light and dust in the same world. That was difficult for ordinary people to understand to the familiarized realm, and everyone sighed inwardly. Junior sister Xiaoming is indeed a rare genius of Taoism. Xiao Yaozi's tone was sour. Comparisons were odious. When he was Xiao Meng's age, he was still an ordinary disciple of the human sect. He had spent most of his life to reach his current level. Now he was surpassed by Xiao Meng at the age of 18. Naturally, he was upset. You want me to kill the Zhu clan? Xiao Meng stared at the crowd and said in a cold and commanding tone. Yes, you can. Why? Let me explain. Zhang Liang took a few steps forward and cupped his fists at Xiao Meng. Senior. Shut up. Don't call me senior. However, Zhang Liang had only spoken 2 words when he was heartlessly interrupted by Xiao Meng. Moreover, she warned him in a rather angry manner. I haven't reached the age where you can call me senior. Zhang Liang, no wonder you are inferior to Dustless. This is bad. Hearing this, everyone realized that something was wrong. Who was Zhang Liang's reverse scale? Needless to say, everyone knew that it was Dustless. Because of this guy, Zhang Liang was first stripped of his identity as the 3rd master of the Confucian school. Later, he was kicked out of the Confucian school. Because of Dustless's scheme, Zhang Liang was also blamed for Fu Nian's death. In addition, there were countless grievances and disputes. In Zhang Liang's life, the person he hated the most was Dustless. However, Xiaoming said that Zhang Liang was inferior to Dustless. Wasn't this the same as deliberately igniting the powder keg? Even if everyone knew that Xiaoming was telling the truth, there was no need to say it to hurt Zhang Liang's self-esteem. Senior, how am I inferior to him? Sure enough, flames were burning in Zhang Liang's eyes. Even his voice was hoarse. If it wasn't for Xiaoming, he would have killed her. Do you still need me to say it? Xiaoming looked directly at the unwilling Zhang Liang and explained softly, Zhang Liang, how do you think you are better than Dustless? Zhang Liang was choked by Xiaoming's words. He didn't say anything for a long time. He was stunned on the spot. In terms of strategy, the two sides were too far apart. Dustless treated Zhang Liang as a stray dog. In terms of strength, they were 1,000 miles apart. 100 Zhang Liang together could barely fight with Dustless. Zhang Liang's biggest advantage was studying. As everyone knew, Dustless was illiterate. However, it was undeniable that Dustless's eloquence, especially in terms of pestering endlessly and misrepresenting a deer as a horse, was absolutely better than Zhang Liang. Cough, cough, cough. Let me talk about the plan. Looking at Zhang Liang's constipated face, Xia Yozi quickly changed the topic. He couldn't provoke him anymore. It would be a tragedy if this guy couldn't take the blow and committed suicide. After junior sister Xiaoming killed the Zhu family, the disciples of Shenong Hall will inevitably hate Taoism and the Qin state behind the scenes. Brother Lu Ji is a core disciple of Shenong Hall. He will become the new hall master. The anti-Qin cause will continue. Use my identity to assist the Qin state? Xiaoming instantly understood Xia Yozi's plan. She was now an ally of the Qin state. If she destroyed the Zhu family, the Qin state would inevitably be suspected. Lu Ji stood out at this moment to divert the trouble to the Qin state. The relationship between Shenong Hall and Fu Su would inevitably be broken. Lu Ji could also order Shenong Hall to continue to resist the Qin state. But, frowning slightly, Xiaoming said coldly, Taoism will also be hated by Shenong Hall. In this way, what benefits can Taoism get in the end? This is very simple. Of course, we won't treat Taoism badly. Lu Ji stood out and looked at Xiaoming. He said seriously, after the collapse of the Qin state, I can confer Taoism as the state religion. Everyone in the world must believe in it. Master Xiaoming, do you have any opinion? Deal. It was the wish of every head to carry forward the sect. Even if it couldn't be carried forward, Xiaoming absolutely couldn't tolerate being suppressed by Dustless's Yin-Yang school. Yin-Yang school was just a part of the former Taoism. How could the elder brother be suppressed by the younger brother? It was too sullen. Chapter 1985. Xiaoming agreed to Lu Ji's condition after careful consideration. If he continued to stay in the Qin kingdom, with the relationship between Xiaoming and Dustless, he would be able to surpass the school of Yin-Yang. No, not to mention the school of Yin-Yang. Even the school of Taoism could surpass the school of Confucianism in the future. Although the school of Taoism led by Xiaoming had a high status in the Qin kingdom, it was still below the school of Yin-Yang and the school of Confucianism. Xiaoming would have a headache if he wanted to surpass the school of Yin-Yang, let alone the school of Yin-Yang, which was much more powerful than the school of Confucianism. What was more embarrassing was that the boss of the two schools was the same person, Dustless. We'll do as you said. I'll take care of the Zhu family. Xiaoming was not an indecisive person. After agreeing to the condition, his physical body dissipated again and disappeared from the eyes of the people around him. Phew! Everyone took a deep breath and smiled sincerely, which was rare for them. After being suppressed by Dustless for so long, they finally had a chance to fight back. TSK, TSK, TSK. These guys are really ambitious. However, they did not know that Dustless heard all of this. To be more precise, it was all eavesdropped by his shadow that was born in the Tomb of Wheel, border prison. Dustless, who knew what happened, admired the willpower of Zhang Liang and the others. It was really commendable that they could still be so confident after being destroyed one after another. Go and get the moon goddess. Remember to be quick. On the elusive mirage, Wu Chen was lying down lazily. He ordered the Qin soldiers who were guarding around him to call moon goddess over. On his left was young Master Ming, who was in charge of massaging his legs. On his right was Great Master Ming, who was peeling fruits for Dustless. Shirlan Li Dao was massaging Dustless's shoulders appropriately. Although there was no such thing as sunbathing in ancient society, Dustless only wore a simple pajama and lay on the unique couch that he ordered Gong Shuqiu to make for him. He was very comfortable. Now that he had gotten the Yellowstone Heavenly Book and the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, it was only a matter of time before Yin Zhongjuan got the elixir of immortality. It was time to relax. Sect Master. After a while, the moon goddess hurried over. She looked quite anxious. The number of times that Wu Chen had urgently informed her could be counted on one hand. The moon goddess thought that something big had happened, but when she arrived and saw that Wu Chen was enjoying himself like a living immortal, she was speechless. You go and tell the Zhu family of the Shenong Hall that the Tianzong Xiaomeng wants to kill him, and his loyal subordinate Lu Ji is also secretly plotting to take his position as the hall master. Taking a bite of the peeled apple that Great Si Ming handed to him, Dustless continued, soon the Shenong Hall is going to have a good show of killing each other. We can't miss it. Boom boom boom. In the dark sky, dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. A downpour was brewing. Someone from the school of Yinyang? In the stronghold of the Divine Dragon Hall, the members of the Zhu family always wore masks. It was impossible to distinguish their specific appearance. This person was extremely mysterious. No one knew his true identity. Yes, Hall Master. Zhu family looked at this disciple of the Shenong Hall silently, and then said, since you are here, you are a guest. Go and invite the guest from the school of Yinyang here. Understood. Zhu family didn't say anything. He stared at the retreating disciple of the Shenong Hall and muttered to himself. Why is the school of Yinyang looking for me? Don't tell me they are here to take revenge on me. Recently my eyelids have been twitching, and I am always restless. Time passed quickly, and a few minutes had passed. Hall Master. An indifferent yet familiar voice came to him. Zhu family raised his head and skimmed over. What he saw was Moon God, whose face was as calm as an ancient well. Moon God from the school of Yinyang? What wind blew such a big shot like you here? It is my honor to have you here. Zhu family greeted her in a friendly manner, but he was secretly alert. This time, I am here to convey the sect master's message to you. Moon God pursed her lips and said in an unusually serious tone. Tianzong Xiaomeng plans to kill you. The mastermind behind this is your good friend Lu Ji. What? Hearing this, even though Zhu family's facial expression couldn't be seen clearly, his tone was several times louder than before, and he subconsciously clenched his fists. Is this true? Zhu family's voice was hoarse, and there was a trace of anger in his words. He thought that he had treated Lu Ji well, but he didn't expect that this two-faced guy would plot against him behind the scenes. It is absolutely true. Hall Master, take care of yourself. Moon God's light tone was very certain. In fact, she didn't know whether the news was true or not. Just as she said before, she was here to convey the message on behalf of Dustless. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The raging cold wind swept through the world, and the heavy rain swept through the vast world. Uncle, are we leaving the school of Yinyang? In the wilderness, 2 figures, one tall and one short, were walking slowly. It was not difficult to tell from the way they addressed each other that they were Gunye and Tianming, who were inseparable from each other. No, we are just temporarily going to meet someone else. Gunye touched Tianming's head and said with a gentle and magnetic tone. Tianming, soon, we will overthrow the Qin kingdom, and then we will wander the world. Haha, wander the world. Let me send you to hell to live a carefree life. A sinister laugh suddenly sounded in the air. Then, a figure quietly walked out of the forest and approached Gunye and Tianming without making a sound. You guys overestimate yourselves. Do you think that you can resist Lord Dustless? Die early and leave this place. This person was Great Si Ming. She was very confident in dealing with Gunye. After eating the magma fruit that Dustless had given her, she was much stronger than before. Gunya was just a piece of cake. The reason why Gunya and the others had been able to live for so long was that they were too good at hiding. If they fought head-on, they would have died a few hundred times already. Chapter 1986. She only needed to be lucky once or twice. If she was always favored by the goddess of luck, everyone would be jealous. Perhaps Dustless would even kill her out of anger. Senior Xiaoyaozi, why are you here? Gunya suddenly felt a strange movement behind him. He subconsciously turned around and saw the old but vigorous carefree master. However, his eyes were cloudy and muddled, as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Senior Xiaoyaozi, why do you look so depressed? Did something big happen? Gunya raised his voice and looked at Xiaoyaozi with concern. Didn't anyone tell you? There's a change in the plan. Xiaoyaozi's voice was filled with disappointment. He gritted his teeth and said, I don't know who leaked the information, but the Zhu family has already taken precautions against us. Is that so? That's a pity. Gunya's face was also gloomy. His eyes were dull as he said, I wonder when we will be able to overthrow the Qin kingdom. Fate is really full of twists and turns. Just bear with it. Xiaoyaozi felt the same way. His face was filled with sorrow, but there was a cunning look in the depths of his eyes. That's right, we didn't lose anyone. Senior Xiaoming should be fine, right? The Zhu family Shenong Hall has many experts. That Dianqing is one of them. Gunya then looked at Xiaoyaozi with a worried expression. It was as if Xiaoming's life was more important than his own. Gunya, you are indeed as sentimental as that lord said. Xiaoyaozi stroked his beard and shook his head as he looked at Gunya. That lord? Gunya was shocked. Xiaoyaozi had a high status in the Taoist sect, but now he was calling someone else lord. Could there be a super old monster hiding in the Taoist sect? Who is this lord that you are referring to? I am all ears. Gunya couldn't help but be curious about the lord that Xiaoyaozi was referring to. Haha. Xiaoyaozi suddenly laughed and said, Gunya, that lord is very familiar with you. You even talked to him before. He even gave you some pointers. There's such a person? Gunya lowered his head and pondered. After searching through his memories for a long time, he still couldn't find any old Taoist monster that Xiaoyaozi had mentioned. He couldn't be bothered to ask any more questions. Instead, he returned to the previous topic and asked worriedly, How are our losses? I hope I can make a comeback in the future. We only lost one person. Only one person? Gunya was overjoyed. Then he asked in disbelief. The Shenong Hall was prepared in advance. We can't have lost only one person, right? But that's the truth. The unfettered one shrugged and said with certainty. May I ask who this person is? Gunya asked curiously. Who is it? The unfettered one's face suddenly emitted a violent blood-red aura. His arms, which were covered in lava, immediately swung towards Gunya. So that's you, Sword Sage Gunya. Bang. All of this happened too quickly and too suddenly. Gunya did not even have time to react, and he was sent flying by the punch. His chest was melted by the lava, and his life was hanging by a thread. Who are you? Gunya cried out in pain as he lay on the ground and spat out blood. His eyes were fixed on the unfettered one. The unfettered one's ability to control lava was something out of a fantasy. No one had ever told him that the unfettered one was an expert in swordsmanship. Oh, Mr. Gu, don't you recognize me? The Xiaoyaozi's face suddenly melted, revealing an incredibly beautiful face. She was wearing the Yin Yang School's uniform, and she had blood-red hands. Gunya immediately recognized who she was. The great Si Ming of the unfettered one. Gunya's face turned pale. He quickly ordered Tianming, who was still in a daze. Tianming, leave this place now. Leave this woman to me. You will only be a burden to me if you stay here. But uncle, your injuries are... Gunya's face changed drastically. It was rare for him to lose his temper. He shouted angrily. Get out of here. You will only be a burden to me if you stay here. This woman is here to kill me. Tianming's face was filled with fear. He looked at Gunya reluctantly, but in the end he had no choice but to run for his life. Just as Gunya had said, this woman was too powerful. She could even control lava. If he stayed, he would only be a burden to her. Cough, cough, cough. Gunia's lungs had been burned by the lava. He coughed up blood. If not for the fact that he was a martial artist and had a strong physique, he would have been killed instantly. Even so, Gunia knew that he could not hold on for much longer. He only hoped that he could hold on for a little longer, so that Tianming could take the opportunity to escape. Driven by his willpower, Gunia once again stood up shakily. You don't have to force yourself. I know what you are thinking. Don't worry, I am not interested in that kid. Or rather, that lord is not interested in him. The great Siming glanced at Tianming and did not pursue him. In fact, if he had wanted to kill Tianming, he would have succeeded. That lord? Only Dustless is worthy of you calling him that. Gunia smiled bitterly. He finally fell to the ground unwillingly. Since he would not kill the kid, why did he kill Xiaoyu? Could it be that they have a grudge against each other? I don't know. Maybe Lord Dustless just felt uncomfortable with that kid. Maybe if Xiaoyu was as tactful as Tianming and knew how to control himself, Lord Dustless would forgive him. The great Siming shook his head, indicating that he did not know either. Dustless had a strange temper. No one knew what he was thinking. His actions were mysterious. Farewell, Sword Sage Gunia. Without even looking at Gunia, the great Siming walked back the way he came. Gunia's internal organs had been destroyed by the lava fruit. Even if a god was alive, it would be impossible for him to save Gunia. Chapter 1987. Gunia raised his head with difficulty and stared at Great Siming's back with his empty eyes. He felt frustrated and helpless. Thinking of the unique ability to control lava, he could not help but sigh. We have indeed chosen the wrong enemy. Plop. As soon as he finished speaking, Gunia died and closed his eyes forever. At the same time, a wonderful show was playing out on the other side. Lu Ji, you despicable man. I treated you as my brother. How dare you join forces with the Taoists to plot against me? In the stronghold of the Shenong Hall, Zhu Jia, the hall master, was furious. He had never seen such a shameless person in his life. His brother, whom he treated with sincerity, actually joined forces with outsiders to usurp his throne. Zhu Jia, a wise man submits to circumstances. Why are you so stubborn? Nothing will change. Lu Ji tried to persuade him out of kindness, but in his heart, he cursed angrily. Which bastard leaked the news? They had planned to plot against Zhu Jia, but when they looked around, they found that the disciples of the Shenong Hall were staring at them. Their sneak attack had turned into a trap. Lu Ji's face turned green, and he had the urge to vomit blood. A wise man submits to circumstances? That makes sense, but... Zhu Jia frowned slightly, and then said with a sinister smile. But you are the ones who are surrounded now. Looking carefully, Lu Ji and Xiaomeng had become turtles in a jar. They were surrounded by the disciples of the Shenong Hall. Although Xiaomeng and Zhu Jia were powerful, the Shenong Hall had a huge advantage. For example, they had Dian Qing, an expert of the Shenong Hall, and a large number of disciples. If we can't find a solution, we are really unlucky today. Lu Ji's brain cells were working quickly, thinking of a solution to deal with Zhu Jia. Ants could kill an elephant with enough strength. If they could not come up with a solution, they would be killed by the crowd. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. It is just an assassination. With junior sister Xiaomeng's strength, it should be a piece of cake. Why hasn't she come back yet? Did something big happen? On the other side, Zaya Yozi, who was waiting for help, was anxious. His old face showed a rare expression of annoyance. Creak. At this moment, the tightly shut door was gently pushed open. A jade-faced young man walked in, and looked over with a smile as he sized up Xiaoyaozi. Why is it you? Compared to the jade-faced young master, the unfettered one couldn't remain calm. His nerves reflexively stood up, and he laughed out loud. His face immediately had an expression that was uglier than crying. Why can't it be me? Dustless asked in confusion. He complained. I came all the way here to see you off. Xiaoyaozi, why do you look so disgusted? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? You. Upon hearing this, Xiaoyaozi stood up and drew his sword. Even though Snow had been handed over to Xiao Meng, there were still many good treasured swords in the Daoist human sect for him to use. Xiao Yaozi, if you have time to fight, I advise you to think of other things. Leisurely leaning against the wall, Dustless hinted. Dustless, what do you mean? Xiao Yaozi raised his eyebrows in anger. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to scrape me, then scrape me. Why are you talking so much nonsense? TSK, your courage is commendable. I want to say. Glancing at Xiao Yaozi, Dustless sighed. Xiao Yaozi, I hope you can tell me your will. The tea that had just entered his lungs spurted out in an instant. Xiao Yaozi glared. The fight hadn't even started yet, and he was still alive. Dustless actually wanted him to write his will. This was outrageous. Xiao Yaozi finally understood what it meant when he said that a dog's mouth couldn't spit out ivory. Before that, I have something to ask you. Looking into Dustless's eyes, Xiao Yaozi lowered his voice and asked, this operation was extremely secretive. How did you find this place? How did I find this place? This sentence is ambiguous. I haven't left this place. Why would you use the word found, which is full of grammatical errors? Wu Chen asked in a low voice. Looking at Xiao Yaozi, who was at a loss, he could only explain. Well, anyway, I'm here to send you to your funeral. There's no harm in opening your eyes. Pa. Dustless suddenly snapped his fingers, and Xiao Yaozi's face suddenly changed. Bang! Xiao Yaozi's abdomen suddenly suffered an unprecedented heavy punch. His chest suddenly caved in, and he was beaten back again and again. His gums were full of bright red blood. Who attacked this old man? Stand out. Xiao Yaozi gritted his teeth and growled. He had lived for more than half of his life, and this was the first time he was attacked by someone. He was extremely sullen. No matter what, he was still the head of a Taoist sect. He didn't even notice the opponent who attacked him. If this news spread out, would he still have a foothold? Don't shout. Even if you shout until your throat is broken, you can't see him. In fact, he is in front of you, but you can never see his real face. Dustless said mysteriously. The shadow born from his tomb of reincarnation, border prison, was actually beside Xiao Yaozi. But this old guy didn't see it at all. To detect the existence of the shadow, the conditions were extremely harsh. It required Rinnegan or six-path immortal technique. Xiao Yaozi looked around to find the shadow, which was extremely ridiculous and ignorant. This is bad. Staring at Dustless with an evil smile on his mouth, Xiao Yaozi already knew what his future fate would be. Chapter 1988. Dustless's strength was clear for all to see. He could easily crush anyone. Wasn't Donghuang Tai, the previous leader of the Yinyang school, chased down by him and forced to leave the Yinyang school in a sorry state? Where are the old man's last words? Dustless stretched and said casually, You have to understand that I respect the elderly very much. If you have any requests, just tell me. Is that so? Then I'm really flattered. Xiao Yaozi's eyes were filled with fear, but he sneered in his heart. Since you are so considerate of the old man, then accompany me to die. Xiao Yaozi expressed that he lacked nothing except for a person to be buried with him. Dustless. Swish. Swish. The biting cold sword light came straight at him. The tip of the sword was surrounded by a cold light that made one's hair stand on end. If one's body was pierced by it, a bloody hole would appear. Old thing, you're really sinister. Dustless shook his head when he saw this, and a rare wisp of a teasing smile flashed on his face. If you can pierce through or kill me, then do as you please. I'm just afraid the heavens aren't willing to let me die. Arrogant. Unfettered Z coldly snorted upon hearing this, and increased the output of true chi within his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A layer of light that could be seen with the naked eye lingered on the blade of the longsword, radiating light in all directions. Swish. Swish. Then Xiao Yaozi forcefully swept out. The sword attack that had been brewing for a long time rushed towards Dustless with irresistible force, and directly hit Dustless's body. I don't even need to resist such a move. There was no doubt that Xiao Yaozi was a top-tier expert. For a sword saint like Gunia to address him as senior, it didn't matter if it was just a compliment or not. It was clear that Xiao Yaozi was no ordinary person. Boom boom boom. Under the expectant gaze of the unfettered one, that rather destructive ripple of energy blasted onto Dustless with all its might. Ha ha ha, we're going to win. Xiao Yaozi, who was indifferent by nature, let out a rare laugh. Dustless had been struck by him without any defense. How could he not die? He was definitely going to die. However, what happened next far exceeded the unfettered one's expectations. His eyes instantly widened. Bang bang bang. When the sword landed on Dustless's body, there was no scene of flesh and blood being torn apart like he had imagined. What made Unfettered Z even more flabbergasted was that the slash he had painstakingly slashed at Dustless's body exploded like water droplets. Ka ka ka. The scattered sword chi destroyed all the buildings in the surroundings, crushing them into powder and debris. Why are you safe and sound? I clearly hit you. Xiao Yaozi was stunned. Dustless was standing in place, completely unscathed. There was a gentle smile on his face, as if everything was under his control. Why are you safe and sound? Don't you understand? Dustless curled his lips in contempt and sneered. My body's hardness has exceeded the limit of your sword's damage. It's that simple. When rotten wood attacks solid rock, it will only break in the end. All your attacks are ineffective against me, Dustless finally added. Impossible. Xiao Yaozi, who had suffered a heavy blow, stubbornly shook his head. His expression turned cold as he turned into an afterimage and pounced on Dustless. Clang clang clang. Xiao Yaozi attacked Dustless with all his strength. His long sword's internal energy was scattered in all directions, each time carrying a fatal destructive force. Boom boom boom. Dustless stood in place without moving, neither defending nor counterattacking. He allowed Xiao Yaozi to attack at will as he was considerate of the old man. After all, this old man was about to be sent to heaven. Boom boom boom. Xiao Yaozi used all his strength to stab Dustless's chest. Each of his attacks was fatal. Every time the tip of his sword aimed at the heart, he gathered all the strength in his body and stabbed forward. But sadly, there was no sign of it penetrating Dustless's body. Instead, because Dustless's body was too hard, Xiao Yaozi's right arm was numb. Huff huff huff. After a while, Xiao Yaozi began to pant heavily. As he was old, his physical strength was not as good as that of a young man. Damn it! Why is this guy's body so hard? Is he made of iron? Xiao Yaozi was secretly depressed. His expression was gloomy. Even if it was made of iron, if he attacked it with all his strength, he might not be able to completely shatter it, but he would at least leave some kind of mark on it. On the other hand, Dustless and the Unfettered One's attacks were ineffective, not leaving any trace behind. Xiao Yaozi was extremely frustrated. If that's the case, aiming at Dustless's head, Xiao Yaozi raised his sword high. The tip of the sword was like a fierce tiger coming out of its cage. In a flash, it pierced towards Dustless's forehead. Success! Seeing that Dustless did not resist, Xiao Yaozi was overjoyed. No matter which head was pierced, it would definitely die. Clang clang clang. However, the moment the sword in his hand touched Dustless's head, Xiao Yaozi's body suddenly trembled. Then under his shocked gaze, a visible crack appeared on his sword. Bastard! How can such an abnormal thing happen? Finally, Xiao Yaozi roared in anger. His face was filled with unwillingness. In just a short minute of fighting with Dustless, he had suffered more blows than he had in his entire life. Xiao Yaozi. Wu Chen pitifully looked at Xiao Yaozi, whose heart was as dead as ashes, and asked, Your Daoist name is Xiao Yaozi, but what you've done doesn't make you look carefree at all. It's none of your business. Hearing this, Xiao Yaozi angrily refuted. Just as he was about to fight with Dustless with his bare hands, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. His entire body suddenly became lighter. This, looking down, he did not know when it started. A hole the size of a human head had appeared in his abdomen. His vitality was instantly sucked dry. Old man, you are too weak. Moreover, you have been attacking me for a long time. It seems like you don't have any last words. Let's stop here. Don't worry about me when you go to heaven. Glancing at Xiao Yaozi indifferently, Dustless turned around and left leisurely. Chapter 1989. Dustless had just left when Great Si Ming, who had just finished off Gunia, arrived. Gunia has been killed? Dustless had already guessed the answer when he saw the smug look on Great Si Ming's face. Gunia is dead, Great Si Ming said with certainty. As for that brat called Tianming, at this point, Great Si Ming fell silent. Did that brat run away? It doesn't matter. After all, he is just an insignificant character. Dustless waved his hand gently, indicating that there was no need for Great Si Ming to care about such a trivial matter. There would always be fish that escaped the net, let alone a child. Even if Tianmi was the great son of Mo clan, what could it mean? Mo clan had already been wiped out by Dustless. To put it bluntly, Tianming was a general without an army. Let's go back and quietly wait for the good news from Shenong Hall. If the Shenong Hall could not eliminate a few people, the little old man from Zhu clan should buy a piece of tofu and commit suicide. Although Shenong Hall could not withstand Xiaoming's strength, ants could bite an elephant to death when there were enough of them. On the elusive mirage, when Dustless was about to go back to sleep, an uninvited guest suddenly came to visit him. Yin Zhongjuan, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Don't tell me that you have successfully refined the elixir of immortality? In the brightly lit hall, Dustless looked at Yin Zhongjuan meaningfully. He emphasized his words and said, I will repeat myself. I want to see the real thing. Before Yin Zhongjuan could say anything, Dustless made him feel extremely conflicted. He could only say helplessly, Sect Master, the elixir of immortality is not a trivial matter. It is not easy to refine it. Then why are you looking for me? Dustless frowned and looked at Yin Zhongjuan. He reprimanded him. If you have the time to talk nonsense with me, why don't you hurry up and refine the elixir? Don't wear down my patience. Hearing this, Yin Zhongjuan could not help but be speechless. He could only bite the bullet and said, Sect Master, all the preparations have been completed. We just lack the east wind. East wind? Raising his eyebrows slightly, Wu Chen frowned and asked, what is the east wind that you lack? I need a reasonable explanation. Don't give me those illusory things. This subordinate understands. Yin Zhongjuan nodded and explained patiently. When Ing Zhang ordered the construction of the mirage, his real purpose was to cross the sea and search for immortal herbs. For this ambition, he gathered a lot of resources. Enough, cut the crap and get to the point. Dustless interrupted Yin Zhongjuan impatiently. This old man had a lot of nonsense to say, and he did not seem to mind the pain in his mouth. At the end of the day, the essence of the elixir of immortality is an immortal pill. Since it is an immortal pill, it naturally needs an immortal pill as a primer. The elusive mirage was built for this purpose. Therefore, Sect Master, please immediately activate the elusive mirage to search for it. Search my ass. Dustless's face darkened. Before Yin Zhongjuan could finish his nonsense, he rudely interrupted him and scolded, there is no celestial medicine in this world. Ridiculous. Immortal mountains and immortal islands? Who told you that there are such nonsense in this world? Dustless knew very well about this world. The martial strength of this world was pitifully weak. How could there be such a legendary existence as immortals? Immortal mountains and immortal islands were also nonsense. Dustless, this guy doesn't know how to be polite at all. Yin Zhongjuan's face twitched. He continued to explain patiently, Sect Master, there is something you don't know. There is an ancient book that says, ancient book? Idiot, your brain will be damaged if you read too much about it. Dustless disdained him. Sometimes it was too difficult to explain certain things to the ancients. For example, Yin Zhongjuan in front of him had a fanatical pursuit of those groundless ancient books and mythical stories. Dustless was sure of one thing. There was no such thing as an immortal mountain or immortal island in this world. Yin Zhongjuan, let me ask you, is it true that you can't refine the elixir of immortality without the celestial medicine as a catalyst? Dustless's tone was somewhat anxious and gloomy. Dustless had hoped that Yin Zhongjuan would refine the elixir of immortality for Duanmu Rong and the others. Now that he had received such a ridiculous answer, how could Dustless not feel unlucky? The greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. At this moment, Dustless looked at Yin Zhongjuan with panic in his heart. Of course. Yin Zhongjuan shrugged and said helplessly, Sect Master, the essence of cultivation is to go against the heavens. Life in this world is the process of fighting against the heavens. The path of alchemy is the same. Without suitable immortal herbs, how can one refine immortal pills? If I had known that this trash would give me such a result, I would have killed him back then. Dustless suddenly regretted it. If he had killed Yin Zhongjuan back then, he would not have been fooled like this. Others might not be able to find out, but Dustless, who had extraordinary means, knew that there were no immortal mountains or immortal islands in this world. There were no islands in the sea in the east at all. Even if there were some islands, they were dilapidated primitive deserted islands. In that case you should go. Oh right. Dustless's eyes suddenly lit up, and the words that were about to come out of his mouth came to an abrupt halt. Suddenly his eyes turned slowly, and Yin Zhongjuan asked, for example, the blood of an immortal. Is this considered a spiritual medicine? Of course it is. Yin Zhongjuan said with great certainty without even thinking about it. Well, you can go back now. Let me deal with this so-called immortal medicine. Dustless waved his hand and suddenly became full of confidence. His eyes flashed with a strange light. I will send you the immortal medicine you mentioned tonight. If you disappoint me again, I will definitely cut you into pieces. Do you understand? Yin Zhongjuan. Chapter 1990. Of course. Yin Zhongjuan hurriedly admitted, not daring to doubt the authenticity of Dustless's words. If he angered this temperamental bastard, he would really be in big trouble. Dong Huangtai was a good example. He was the real master of the Yinyang family, but what happened in the end? Dustless turned him into a stray dog. Xinghun, who had already died, and others who had offended Dustless, all ended up more miserable than the last. But, narrowing his eyes, Yin Zhongjuan looked at Dustless with a strange expression and asked, Sect Master, you said that you will give me the immortal medicine, no, the immortal blood tonight, right? Is that true? That's right. Dustless nodded and asked, do you have any other questions? Yin Zhongjuan was rendered speechless by Dustless's words. On the surface, he just smiled embarrassedly, but in his heart, he was extremely speechless. The elusive mirage hasn't set sail yet. Let's see how you will give me the immortal blood tonight. Sect Master, I'll take my leave. It was rare for him to talk nonsense with Dustless. Yin Zhongjuan bowed and retreated. Being in the same space as this temperamental guy made Yin Zhongjuan feel stuffy in his chest and very uncomfortable all over his body. Go. Dustless closed his eyes again and breathed evenly. It seemed that he had fallen asleep. Humph. Let's see what you will do if you can't take out the immortal blood tonight. Then you can't blame me. The moment he turned his head, Yin Zhongjuan heaved a sigh of relief. If Dustless couldn't solve the problem of the immortal blood, it wouldn't be his problem if he couldn't refine the immortal elixir. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was evening. I hope you won't disappoint me. In the transparent container, there was more than 1 liter of bright red blood. The color was bright and fresh, as if it had just been released from a living body. It was still a little warm. On Dustless's arm, there was a large red wound, and there was a sharp knife on the table. It was obvious that the owner of the blood was him. Although Dustless was not an immortal, there was no doubt that his strength was definitely not weaker than the so-called immortals. Furthermore, Dustless himself was a 10-tailed beast. In addition, he had also devoured the Spirit King. He had long evolved to an unprecedented level. Even if an immortal came, Dustless had the confidence to kill him. What's more, to a certain extent, the 10-tailed beast was the sacred tree, and the sacred tree was a treasure that contained immortal qi. It was not a big deal to give some blood to Yin Zhongjuan. He could just treat it as a last resort. Therefore, Dustless gave his blood to Yin Zhongjuan as a primer for refining the elixir of immortality. If it didn't work, Dustless would leave this world. Go and call Yin Zhongjuan over. Glancing at the soldiers of the Qin kingdom outside the hall, Dustless put away the dagger. At the same time, his broken wound began to slowly heal. The body of the 10-tailed beast was immortal, and any wound could be healed. Contributing 1 liter of blood was fatal to humans, but Dustless didn't feel it at all. The vitality of the 10-tailed beast was extremely tenacious. Tap, tap, tap. After a while, dull footsteps were heard. Dustless's vision also recovered from the blurred state, but the person he saw was not Yin Zhongjuan. Moon God? The person who came was the right guardian of the Yinyang school, Dharma Yueshan. The original left guardian, Xing Hun, had been killed by Dustless. Is there any good news? Was Lu Ji killed by the Zhu family, the hall master of the Shenongtang? Dustless's face outlined a faint smile and continued. This is barely a good news. Sect Master. You guess wrong this time. Moon God's words were shocking, and her face was solemn. At the same time, there was a hint of disappointment in her tone. The result was the opposite. The one who was annihilated was not Lu Ji, but the Zhu family. He was killed by Lu Ji and Xiaoming. Ha! Dustless was stunned, which was rare for him. He asked in amazement. You mean the Zhu family was annihilated by Xiaoming and Lu Ji? Is the boy of the Zhu family a pig? Even if his body size is close to that of a fat pig, I remember that he is quite smart. Dustless was extremely depressed and asked again. I asked you to inform him in advance. Why did the Zhu family still lose? Ambushing the enemy, but being killed by the other party in the end. Was there anything more stupid than this? In fact, it's not like the Zhu family. The changes are really overwhelming. Moon God sighed and explained. At first, the Zhu family did have the advantage, but Lu Ji secretly cultivated a lot of his own people. So the Shenongtang did not obey the Zhu family's order. Secondly, Situ Wanli of the Four Mountains Hall helped them, so the Zhu family was defeated and killed. In addition, there was a mysterious person who intervened in this matter. In short, the Zhu family lost. Although it was unexpected, it was inevitable. Mysterious person? Dustless frowned and asked. Moon God, are you trying to say that there is someone else who helped Lu Ji besides Zhang Liang and Xiaoming's Taoist sect? Why is that boy so lucky? There is indeed someone, and Sect Master is very familiar with this person. Moon God nodded and immediately said a name that Dustless had forgotten for a long time. Chu Nangong. Him. An old man with white hair and a beard suddenly appeared in Dustless's mind. He felt pressured when he walked, but it was undeniable that this guy was indeed extraordinary. Firstly, his strength was quite formidable, and secondly, his origin was also very mysterious. Although there were 3 households in Chu, Qin must be destroyed. This sentence was said by Chu Nangong, and later, his prophecy was right. The person who destroyed the Qin state was indeed Xiang Yu, the overlord of Western Chu. He was the first to obtain the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, but it was snatched by Dustless in the end. He also hated Dustless in his heart. Really, cats and dogs keep jumping out one after another. It's easier and faster to destroy this world with the infinite Tsukuyomi. Dustless rubbed his head in distress. These words were just words to vent his complaints. He had a good relationship with Dustless, so naturally, it was impossible for him to destroy Fusu's country. Moreover, Fusu had helped him a lot. Dustless could not do such a cruel thing as biting the hand that fed him. Chapter 1991. There are too many ants to kill. After letting out a long sigh, Dustless suddenly understood the truth of a sentence. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. Rebels and traitors can never be killed. The world must be united when it is divided for a long time. This is the general trend of history, and it has never changed since ancient times. Human nature was evil. Wherever there were human activities, there would be darkness. This was especially true in feudal societies, where the hierarchy was strict. The gap between the rich and the poor was naturally huge. If they couldn't even support their wives and children, the poor at the bottom would definitely complain about the injustice of this society. Then, people with ulterior motives would sow discord, and these people would become traitors. Most of the feudal dynasties in history were destroyed because of this. But, his eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a deadly demonic light. I have always advocated eliminating those who dare to resist my will. If one comes, I will kill one. If two come, I will kill both. Sect master, you mean? Moon Goddess approached Dustless and asked for his opinion. She was keenly aware that Dustless had other intentions. Because their cheeks were so close to each other, and because Moon Goddess was quite close to Dustless, he could still smell the unique fragrance that was faintly discernible. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless deliberately put on a straight face and coughed twice awkwardly. He said seriously, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. We don't have to do anything. They will come to us soon." Sect master, you have the right to decide. Moon Goddess nodded and immediately looked up. She suddenly realized that Dustless was staring at her. Moon Goddess subconsciously looked down, and her face instantly turned red. It turned out that the clothes on her chest were drooping because she had bowed just now, so Dustless had seen something he shouldn't have. By the way, I have something else to say. Seeing that Moon Goddess's face was a little ugly, Dustless quickly diverted the trouble and said, "Keep an eye on Yun Zhongjuan for me these days. Don't let that kid escape." Escape? Hearing this, the Moon Goddess was stunned for a moment. Then she asked in a daze, "Why do we need to see Yun Zhongjuan? Did he do something illegal? We can punish him publicly. There is no need to monitor him." "That's not it." Dustless shook his head and said, "In short, in the next few days, you have to pay close attention to his movements. Don't be careless. Do you hear me?" Although the Moon Goddess did not understand what Dustless meant, she still nodded seriously. "Yes, sect leader. Leave Yun Zhongjuan to me." As her voice faded, the Moon Goddess bowed slightly and gracefully retreated. Ancient people are good. He's so obedient, sensible, and doesn't like to ask too many questions. He only knows how to follow orders. It's hard to find a flaw in him. Dustless looked at Moon God's back with satisfaction. He had a faint smile on his face. "Damned Yun Zhongjuan, I hope you won't do anything stupid." Watching the Moon Goddess leave, Dustless's eyes suddenly flashed with a blood-red demonic light. He did not have the slightest good impression or trust of Yun Zhongjuan. Once the elixir of immortality was completed, Yun Zhongjuan would die of old age. However, Dustless was worried that Yun Zhongjuan would run away in advance once the elixir of immortality was completed. Therefore, he sent the Moon Goddess to watch him secretly. If Yun Zhongjuan ran away quietly, it meant that the elixir of immortality was really completed. Then he could just kill Yun Zhongjuan and take the elixir. There was no need to continue to be entangled with Yun Zhongjuan. Ha 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 ha. Everyone, let's toast to our future success. In the stronghold of the Shenong Hall, the 8 Immortals table was filled with all kinds of wine and meat. A group of people gathered together, and everyone had a clear smile on their faces. Lu Jiwei in particular had finally become the hall master of the Shenong Hall after going through so many hardships. "It's all thanks to everyone that I, Lu Ji, am where I am today. Let me toast you all with this bowl of wine." Lu Ji picked up a bowl of wine and clinked it with everyone, except for one person. "Master Xiaoming, we will be on the same side from now on. Why are you being so polite?" When Lu Ji saw Xiaoming sitting still and ignoring everyone's existence, his face stiffened slightly. Then he said with shame, "I am also very sad about the death of Senior Xiaoyaozi, but the dead have passed away. All I can promise is that his name will be passed down through the ages in the future. I don't care about the death of an old man, and I won't be moved." Xiaoming glanced coldly at Lu Ji, then glanced at Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others. She warned, "You've only agreed to a negligible victory, and you're so proud of yourselves for holding a celebration party? Maybe the next time you hold a party, you will be in prison or on the guillotine of the Qin kingdom." As Xiaoming's words fell, everyone's face changed slightly. She made them sound like children who were complacent and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lu Ji was helpless when he heard that. In fact, he also knew that it was just a small victory. It could even be said that he had sacrificed 800 of his own men to kill 1,000 of his enemies. But it was not a big deal to have an appropriate rush of joy. Ha ha ha. Chu Nangong's aged laughter came out of her mouth. She leaned on her walking stick and said, "I know what you are worried about. But according to my understanding of Dustless, that guy is very lazy. He won't attack us for the time being. In the past, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was taken away by Dustless openly. Since then, Chu Nangong and Dustless were like fire and water. Chapter 1992. According to the character of Dustless, he won't fight? Xiao Ming repeated in a low voice. Even though her expression didn't change much, the corners of her eyes were clearly twitching. She suddenly realized that she'd simply made the biggest mistake in her life by following this group of people on the same boat. What did she mean by Dustless wouldn't fight? Weren't they the ones who should fight? Since they chose to rebel and overthrow the Qin state, they should take the initiative to attack. Why did it become Dustless who wouldn't fight now? It was ridiculous. Cough, cough, cough. Chu Nangong seemed to see Xiao Ming's dissatisfaction and had to explain patiently. Xiao Ming, you also know the strength of Dustless. Although we have temporarily overthrown the Shenongtang, it is still difficult to deal with him. Humph. Hearing this, Xiao Ming just snorted disdainfully and turned away without saying anything. Sitting aside and looking at the vast scenery in the distant sky, she suddenly felt that the future was dark. Seeing this, everyone was stunned and looked at each other. How did the promised celebration turn out like this? At the same time, everyone looked at Lu Ji. After all, he was the mastermind of the banquet. At this moment, he was mercilessly slapped in the face by Xiao Ming, so he should be the most upset. But what was admirable was that Lu Ji was worthy of being the founding emperor of the Han dynasty. He just smiled disapprovingly and seemed to be quite open-minded. Master Xiao Ming's scolding is reasonable. I don't know what good plan you have to deal with Dustless, the evil thief. If this person is not killed, I will feel uneasy when I sleep. Lu Ji did not exaggerate at all. Every day when he dreamed and slept, he would occasionally meet Dustless's unpleasant and disgusting face. Everyone looked at each other and bowed their heads in shame. To be honest, they did not have a plan to deal with Dustless. Although they now controlled the Shenongtang and had the help of Situ Wanli's Four Mountains Hall, it was always a fool's dream to contend with Dustless. I suggest that we don't confront that guy for the time being. Zhang Liang pondered for a moment, then said frankly, actually, we don't have to do it ourselves to deal with him. Someone can help us deal with Dustless. Someone is helping. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded and stared at Zhang Liang in confusion. It seemed that Dustless had destroyed anti-Qin organizations like the School of Moism, the Confucian School, and the Quicksand. Who would dare to find trouble with Dustless? There are two people. Under the gazes of the crowd, Zhang Liang smiled mysteriously. A few days ago, when the Yinyang School attacked the farmer's village, they killed Tian Hu and annihilated Qiyu Hall. Other than that, even Senior Xiaoyao Zi and Mr. Gun Ye were killed by the Yinyang School. Only I am safe and sound. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Liang couldn't help but feel a little proud. He knew that Dustless was here to kill him, but he couldn't find any trace of Zhang Liang even after searching for a long time. Where did Mr. Zhang Liang go? Han Xian and Lu Ji asked in confusion at the same time. The others also looked at Zhang Liang curiously. It was undeniable that Zhang Liang was indeed capable. Anyone that Dustless wanted to kill would die without a doubt. Only Zhang Liang had escaped misfortune. Ha ha ha. Zhang Liang laughed mysteriously and said something shocking. I went to the Mirage. As soon as Zhang Liang finished speaking, even Xiao Ming, who was looking at the scenery outside the window, was surprised. She said in surprise, this Zhang Liang is really not simple. The Yinyang School of Moism is looking for him everywhere, but he secretly sneaked into the Mirage and chose to do the opposite. No wonder the Yinyang School of Moism failed. The Mirage is the Yinyang School of Moism's territory. What kind of fortuitous encounter did Mr. Zhang Liang have? Lu Ji and the others were interested. They put down the bowls and chopsticks in their hands. Xiao Ming also focused her attention on Zhang Liang. Judging from the strength that Dustless showed, I felt that it was impossible to kill him. At least, we don't have the confidence to kill him. So, I thought of other strategies. Although Zhang Liang was unwilling, he had to admit that the gap between his strength and Dustless's was too big. Could it be? Everyone's eyes lit up. As soon as Zhang Liang finished speaking, everyone looked at him with great joy. Mr. Zhang Liang, did you say that the Yinyang school of Moism is enough to kill Dustless? That's right. Zhang Liang nodded proudly and said with a confident smile. Yun Zhongjuan of the Yinyang school of Moism promised to poison Dustless. He will definitely be able to poison Dustless to death. As the saying went, it was easier to dodge a spear in the open than an arrow in the dark. The enemy was not scary. The scariest thing was often the pawns in the school. In this way, Dustless will definitely die. Chu Nangong felt comforted. He hated Dustless to death. First, Dustless snatched his Yellowstone heavenly book. Then he killed Li Si. Chu Nangong was Li Si's right-hand man. If Li Si died, he would naturally be implicated and become a stray dog. The most terrible thing was that Li Si and Zhao Gao rebelled together. Chu Nangong, who used to be Li Si's right-hand man, was also affected. He had to flee for a long time to avoid the Qin army's heavy troops. After several twists and turns, Chu Nangong decided to rely on Lu Ji and the others. They had to deal with the Qin kingdom and Dustless together to have a chance of winning. Mr. Zhang Liang said that 2 people are enough to deal with Dustless. May I ask who the other person is? Everyone could not help but ask curiously. Is he also a member of the Yinyang school of Moism? This person is more important than Yin Zhongjuan. A trace of coldness flashed across Zhang Liang's face. That fellow Wu Chen's contribution is too great. The emperor's greatest taboo is to avoid shocking the emperor. As long as we secretly instigate discord, we might be able to disintegrate their alliance. Chapter 1993. That's right. Dustless's contribution is too great. The 100 schools of thought were almost annihilated by him. He even destroyed Li Si and Zhao Gao. His contribution is enough to embarrass Fusu. Lu Ji agreed wholeheartedly. In history, there were countless meritorious ministers who had died because of their contributions. In the end, it's still a scheme. Xiao Ming snorted in disdain. Although Zhang Liang's plan sounded good, it was still a little different from what Xiao Ming had in mind. The concept was even the opposite. All in all, Xiao Ming was somewhat disgusted by schemes. Although she knew that she was forced to do so, she was still disgusted by it. No matter what, let's do as Mr. Zhang Liang said. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. In these few days, Dustless had been very bored. He walked around the elusive mirage. Although there were many beautiful women, to be honest, Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. Some of his desires had already faded. It's getting more and more boring. Dustless looked up at the sky and sighed. It had been a long time, and he was bored every day. Sect Master. A gentle voice came from the left side. Wu Chen turned his head and skimmed over. What he saw was the moon goddess who came in a hurry. Is Yin Zhongjuan done refining the immortality elixir? Dustless's eyes suddenly lit up. He asked with great anticipation. That kid didn't run away? That's strange. Dustless touched his chin. He knew that Yin Zhongjuan hated him. It was just that he had not shown it. Dustless also pretended that he did not know anything. However, after the immortality elixir was successfully refined, he could run away. Would he continue to stay in the elusive mirage to seek death? I don't know the details, the moon goddess denied. Then she said curiously, Yin Zhongjuan seems to have suddenly gone crazy. He has been laughing like an idiot for more than 2 hours. He hasn't stopped until now. Laughing like an idiot? Dustless was stunned. Then he asked without hesitation, has that kid gone crazy from refining elixirs? Come with me to see what that old kid is up to. In the alchemy pavilion. Haha, success. Yin Zhongjuan's face was filled with ecstasy, and his eyeballs were about to pop out. He held the blood-red pill with trembling hands, as if he was looking at his lover. His affectionate gaze was even more affectionate than when he saw his own parents. Creak. When the heavy iron door was suddenly pushed open, a cold and vicious look flashed across Yin Zhongjuan's face. Being disturbed by someone had ignited the killing intent in his heart. Without my permission, which blind bastard. So it's Lord Sect Leader. The moment Yin Zhongjuan turned around and saw Dustless and Moon Goddess, he quickly squeezed out a smile. His resentment disappeared without a trace, and it was replaced with a flattering look. Lord Yin Zhongjuan, you look so happy. Could it be that the elixir of immortality has been completed? The sharp-eyed Dustless instantly caught sight of the blood-red pill in Yin Zhongjuan's hand. For some reason, his heart trembled violently. I can guarantee that this time, it's definitely a success. Yin Zhongjuan was extremely excited. Then, under Dustless's astonished gaze, he swallowed the pill in his hand. Then something incredible happened. Even with Dustless's composure, he was stunned for a moment. The small amount of white hair near Yin Zhongjuan's ears suddenly regained its beautiful luster, and turned into long, smooth black hair. His obviously old face also regained its youthfulness. He was in high spirits, and his eyes were as dazzling as black pearls. It's really done? Even Moon Goddess, who was usually as quiet as a green lotus, widened her eyes at this moment. Her small, round mouth opened exaggeratedly, and she was quite surprised. Do you have more? Bring one over for me to try. Dustless couldn't wait to try the effect of the elixir of immortality to satisfy his curiosity. After all, this kind of legendary thing was rare. Lord Sect Leader, please. Yin Zhongjuan took out a few blood-red pills from the jade bottle, and handed them to Dustless respectfully. Gulp. Dustless couldn't wait to swallow them into his lungs and carefully feel the changes in his stomach. It's really not simple. The pills melted as soon as they entered his mouth. A steady stream of medicinal efficacy instantly spread to his limbs and bones, nourishing his flesh, blood cells, and other organs all over his body. Dustless's mentality suddenly changed. He felt that he was 10 years younger, and his body suddenly became much more relaxed. However, perhaps because he was a 10-tailed beast and was immortal, Dustless's feeling was not as deep and obvious as Yin Zhongjuan's. Good, worthy of encouragement. Well done. Dustless patted Yin Zhongjuan's shoulder, and gave him an encouraging look. Then, he snatched the emerald jade bottle from Yin Zhongjuan's hand without any hesitation. Why are there only a few pills? After pouring out all the pills, Dustless only had 3 or 4 pills. What was the use of them? He had many female confidants. How could he distribute these pills? Lord Sect Leader, please forgive me. I was in a hurry and could only refine a few pills. Yin Zhongjuan's face was full of self-blame, but he sneered in his heart. He thought to himself, do you think I'm an idiot? After I refine a few hundred pills for you, I'm afraid you'll kill me immediately. Yin Zhongjuan knew that Dustless hated him, but he didn't point it out now. The reason was that he was still useful now. Once he lost his value, he was sure that Dustless would immediately get rid of him. If he helped Dustless refine all the pills in one go, wouldn't he be courting death? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.